Chapter 100. Yunna was ashamed and resentful. She begged for mercy, but her father was not appeased. He even threatened to sever all ties with her. That night, Yunna kept washing her dirty body while cursing Xianxia 1,000 times in her heart. Her face was slapped by Li Dongqiang a few times and was swollen for a few days. On the day of the audition, even a thick layer of foundation could not cover her swollen face. Her originally delicate and pretty face was especially swollen, and her pale complexion was especially unsightly. Without a doubt, how could she pass the audition in such a state? Before the audition started, the director told her to get lost. With her current state, she would only be wasting her spot. Yunna also saw Xianxia at a glance. She was shocked. Her face turned pale when she recalled Li Dongqiang saying that she had a sugar daddy that she could not afford to offend. This woman actually hooked up with a sugar daddy? How could it be? She was just a commoner in dire straits with Yun Tianyu as a burden. Why would a sugar daddy fancy her? Why was she here? Could it be that Xianxia found out about her framing her that day? Yunna panicked, but when she realized that Xianxia did not even look at her, she calmed down. She looked left and right and did not make a sound. Crack! The door to the audition hall opened with the sound of the door opening. The second batch of auditions had ended. Some of the ladies who came out had smiles on their faces, while others looked disappointed. It seemed that some were happy while others were sad. The competition in a talent show was so cruel. The person in charge of the audition walked to the door, clapped his hands loudly, and commanded with a loudspeaker. The third group is ready to enter. Gu Xingzi gently patted Xianxia's shoulder. Go on, Xianxia. You can do it. You are the Yin Xiachun in my heart. Xianxia nodded slightly at his words. The crowd gradually dispersed. Yunna watched Xianxia enter the audition hall. So, she was here for the audition? Who gave her this opportunity? She turned and looked at Gu Xingzi. She looked at Xianxia's gentle gaze. Could it be him? Oh God, Gu Xingzi, who had debuted for 10 years, was the perfect idol in Yunna's heart. He actually looked at Xianxia with such warm eyes. A broken shoe? It was too unfair. Yunna stared at Gu Xingzi and Xianxia as they entered the selection venue side by side. Her heart was filled with jealousy and grievance, and her eyes were red. The interview hall was a dance studio surrounded by mirrors. A piano was placed quietly at one side, and the 8 examiners sat in rows on the rostrum. Among them, the first male lead of The Green Apple was Gu Xingzi, as well as the 4 top producers in the entertainment industry. The director of The Green Apple, Lin Fengtian, was also present. However, after 2 auditions, Lin Fengtian was a little tired. Rather than tiredness, it was more like visual fatigue. Gu Xingzi's influence was extremely shocking. Since the start of the audition, thousands of people had signed up for the audition. After a few rounds of screening, there were a few hundred who were good-looking. However, after a few interviews, none of them were to his liking. In the original novel, the female lead, Yin Xiachun, had thick black hair that reached her waist. On her small face, there was a pair of eyes that were as innocent as the romantic starry sky with many little stars hidden within. Her skin was fair, without any makeup, and looked so delicate that it could be broken by the wind. Her gentle and beautiful eyes were like a fairy that had fallen into the mortal world, fresh and cute. Chapter 101. But after these few auditions, what kind of people were they? Big wavy curls, heavy makeup, thick eyelashes like a stiff brush, and a thick layer of highlights on the bridge of their noses that could blind people. They were either internet celebrities who had plastic surgery or has been models in the entertainment industry. They didn't have the looks, and they didn't have the temperament. High heels, powdered faces, and suspender dresses. What were these? Did they come from a nightclub? Other than that, the 2 auditions today could be summarized in 6 words: a whole morning of crying scenes. It seemed that these people all knew that crying scenes were the most demanding of acting skills. Therefore, after a whole morning, the people who came in for the audition all chose the most classic crying scenes in the script. Crying. Although crying scenes were the most demanding of acting skills, no matter how good the plot was, if it was repeated over and over again, it would be boring. These girls cried until Lin Fengtian's head was spinning and he didn't have the mood to act. Lin Fengtian propped up his chin in boredom. The black pencil in his hands spun quickly. He couldn't help but think of the little elf he met at the school gate that day. That girl was the real Xianxia in his heart. That girl didn't need to act. She just had to stand there and she looked like a character who walked out of a book. It was all his fault for being muddle-headed. Sigh. The little assistant glanced at the director coldly from the side. He thought that Director Lin was about to get lovesick. Lin Fengtian was frowning bitterly when Xianxia pushed open the door and walked in. She was wearing a clean long dress. Her pure and beautiful face seemed to be covered with a thin layer of foundation. Her whole person was lovely and moving. She had a quiet temperament, a gentle smile, and a radiant look in her eyes. It was as if she had walked out of a book. Xianxia. The examiners were all stunned. When the little assistant saw her, his eyes were wide open. Director Lin, it's her. Under everyone's amazed gazes, Xianxia seemed to be a little reserved. Her steps were small and light, and her jet-black waist-length hair covered her entire back, rippling gently with the breeze blowing in from outside the window. She walked to the front of the interview table and raised her head. Her snow-white face was pink, and it was unknown whether she was nervous or not. In her eyes, there was the hesitation and anticipation of stepping onto the stage for the first time as a student. It was as if she was performing for the first time in her life in front of tens of thousands of people in a school auditorium. She looked around nervously and finally saw Wuxia on the rostrum. It was as if a rock had been lifted from her heart. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Then she slowly said, "Hello everyone. I'm Xianxia from Grade 2 Class 1. I'm very honored to be able to step onto this stage." Halfway through her sentence, she was at a loss for words, like a child who had forgotten her lines on stage for the first time. She looked uneasily at Wuxia. A producer at the side was so shocked that his eyes widened. He thought that the girl was so nervous that she made up her lines. Just as he was about to stop her, Lin Fengtian pressed on his shoulder and he immediately kept quiet. When Lin Fengtian looked at Xianxia again, his eyes were filled with amazement and praise. Chapter 102. The other producers were only in charge of the audition, but Lin Fengtian was the director of this movie. He was already familiar with the script. This girl did not get nervous and misread her lines. Instead, she proved it with her acting skills. This girl was extremely smart. She seemed to have guessed that most of the contestants in the audition would choose the crying scene. All the examiners were already bored. She abandoned the emotional scenes and chose the most beautiful scene in the script. In the script, Xianxia had been practicing piano with Dongyu in the music classroom since she was young. Piano was the most simple bond between siblings. They were attracted to each other through music, obsessed and falling for each other. Xianxia liked to stick to Dongyu since she was young. However, she was a little distant from her other classmates, so she never had many friends. It just so happened that the school held an annual talent show in the second year of junior high school. Dongyu signed her up. With her brother's encouragement, Xianxia went through the preliminary and semifinals and finally stepped onto the highest stage in the school. Xianxia, who was on the stage for the first time, was young and nervous. Dongyu sat in the first row and encouraged her with all his might. That was the plot, and it was also the most romantic scene in the novel. This girl was quite interesting. Lin Fengtian's eyes lit up. This girl's every frown and smile was so infectious. In front of him, it was as if he was no longer at the audition venue. At this moment, it was as if he was in a huge auditorium. The cheers and applause of the students, as well as the long period of tension and silence when Xianxia stepped onto the stage, were suffocating. It was so immersive. How good of a seedling was this? Lin Fengtian turned his head and said excitedly, "Dongyu, cooperate with her." Xianxia also seemed to understand. With many years of acting experience, he could immediately immerse himself in the role. He suddenly stood up. Just like how Dongyu was nervous about his sister's appearance in the movie, he gazed at her with eager and expectant eyes. Xianxia's eyes met his, and after a brief exchange, a shy smile appeared on her face. "Hello everyone. I'm Xianxia from Year 2 Class 1. I'm very honored to be able to step onto this beautiful stage. Next, I'll be singing a piano piece, Autumn Whispers. Then, she slowly walked towards the beautiful tripod piano in the music room. She slowly walked past the piano, and the moment her fingertips touched the keys, she pressed a few wrong notes. However, she once again gently stroked the piano keys, as if her nervous soul had finally been released. Her posture was so graceful that she was like a musical fairy. Lin Fengtian suppressed the excitement in his heart. Could it be that this girl could play the piano? Or was the scene going to end here? Just as he was looking forward to it, Xianxia's 10 fingers stroked the piano keys, and a romantic piano song, Autumn Whisper, flowed from her fingertips like flowing clouds and flowing water. Smooth and graceful. This piano piece was extremely difficult to play. Not to mention the others, even Xianxia was captivated by this nightingale-like melody. In the drama, Xianxia won first place in the talent show with this song, Autumn Whisper. The girl in front of him, sitting by the piano, was as beautiful as an angel who had fallen into the mortal world. After she finished playing a song, she smiled confidently, stood up from the piano stool, and walked to the front of the stage. She calmly accepted the endless applause from the teachers and students of the school. Good, great, wonderful. Lin Fengtian was the first to lead the applause. Chapter 103. Xianxia, this is the Xianxia I've been looking for. She looked exactly the same as if she had walked out of a book. While Lin Fengtian was pleasantly surprised, he could not help but have some doubts. Was this girl really not from an acting school? She immediately got into character and used her best performance to prove her acting skills. This girl was quite smart, a rare talent in acting. In fact, teen movies did not require acting skills. No matter how hard one cried, it would be boring and the audience would find it boring. Most of the time, youth was a kind of nostalgia and nostalgia for the beauty of youth. Teen movies, on the other hand, used beautiful stories to dig deep into the treasured memories of the audience. Expressing the beauty of youth and stirring emotions at the right moment was the true essence of teen movies. This girl made everyone's eyes light up. Amidst the applause, Xianxia could not help but step forward. Just like in that beautiful scene in the movie, Dongyu walked onto the stage and pulled Xianxia, who was receiving applause and cheers, into his arms. Good, wonderful, wonderful and memorable. Lin Fengtian applauded excitedly. The other producers could not help but nod in approval. Not only Lin Fengtian, but everyone who had experienced the devastation of a morning's crying scene felt that Xianxia's performance could be said to be a spring breeze. Oh God, she's so beautiful. I suddenly thought of my first love. An executive director was touched by the scene and the corners of his eyes were slightly moist. Even Lin Fengtian was greatly surprised. At first, he liked this girl because she was pleasing to the eye and because she had outstanding looks that matched the temperament of the female lead in this movie. Who would have thought that after meeting her today, she would be such a capable actress? However, she was not from an acting school. How could her acting skills be so amazing? This had nothing to do with talent. Some actors did have amazing talent in acting, but this girl was different. From the moment she went on stage, she was in the zone of acting. Her professionalism, superb acting skills, and even perfect positioning. Only someone who had been in the entertainment industry for 10 years could portray such a lively character. No matter what, Lin Fengtian, had found another piece of treasure. Xianxia's face regained its usual calmness. She slowly took half a step back from Xianxia's embrace. The corners of her lips curled slightly into a graceful and elegant smile. It was neither distant nor intimate. She could get into character as she wished, and she could get out of character as she wished. Who would believe that she wasn't an acting prodigy? Xianxia, on the other hand, knew very well that she had indeed suffered a lot in order to have such good acting skills. Her master was the famous veteran actress, Mu Yuling. The entertainment industry was full of ups and downs. Mu Yuling did not have a strong background, nor was she sought after. She relied on small supporting roles to hone her acting skills. It was only until an opportunity presented itself that she became famous. She had gone through 10 years of blood and tears to become a double best actress. Mu Yuling had taught her everything she knew. She had come prepared for this audition. Since she wanted to do something, she had to do it well. Gu Xingze looked at Yun Shirshir. She had a faint smile on her face and her eyes were bright and gentle. He was amazed by her performance just now. This girl was too amazing. Even he couldn't help but get into character just now. Chapter 104. Until the end of the audition, everyone was still immersed in Yun Shirshir's performance. Hence, the rest of the audition was boring. In Lin Fengtian's mind, he already had a female lead candidate in mind. Yun Shirshir walked out of the music building. Xiao Shui, who had heard the news, had been waiting at the door for a long time. When she saw her, she quickly went up to her. "Shirshir, why you here?" Yun Shirshir was slightly surprised. After what had happened just now, Xiao Shui still looked a little shaken. "I called you and you said that you came for the audition. I was a little worried. What's there to worry about? Are you really here for the audition?" Xiao Shui asked anxiously. "Yes, I'm here to audition for the female lead of The Green Apple." Xiao Shui's eyes almost popped out when she heard this. "What? Why didn't you tell me?" Yun Shirshir smiled faintly but did not say much. "I just decided on the spur of the moment. I just wanted to give it a try for fun." "Wow, you're so cool. Shirshir, with your words, there should be no problem. You're so good-looking and elegant. I've also read that novel. The moment I saw the female lead, my first reaction was also you. If you're the female lead, the box office will definitely skyrocket. By then, our Shirshir will be a celebrity." Xiao Shui said excitedly. Suddenly, she thought of something and said worriedly, "But, Shirshir, I heard from my dad that the entertainment industry is extremely dirty. What are you afraid of? If anyone bullies me, you'll be there to protect me, right?" Yun Shirshir smiled and bumped her shoulder with a smile. The two of them were about to leave when they were suddenly stopped by someone behind them. "Shirshir." She turned around and saw Gu Xingze and Lin Fengtian standing behind them. Gu Xingze was dressed in a white shirt and a pair of slim black pants. His simple outfit brought out his pure handsomeness. His appearance immediately alarmed the fan club that had been crouching in the music building for a long time. Although Jinghua University had already made it clear that if the campus learning environment was affected due to chasing stars, it was still unable to curb those fanatical fans. "Xingze. Look, it's Xianxia. Wow. Xianxia is so handsome. Sob sob sob. I can't believe that I actually saw Xianxia in person. Am I dreaming? So, Mommy, I saw Xianxia?" Xiao Shui narrowed her eyes and sized up the heavenly king in front of her. She had to admit that she was a little defeated. Some people were born to be idols. Gu Xingze was such a man. A man was more beautiful than a woman. Xiao Shui was shocked. Yun Shirshir could not help but feel a headache coming on from the excited voices around her. Gu Xingze, on the other hand, was used to it. He smiled and took 2 steps closer to her. In a low and gentle voice, he said, "Huanyu Entertainment's annual cocktail party is tomorrow night. Will you be coming?" Yun Shirshir was stunned. Was he inviting her to the cocktail party? Seeing that she was silent, he slowly said, "I want to invite you to be my female companion." Was he joking? He was a popular heavenly king, but he wanted to invite a nobody like her to be his female companion? Chapter 105. I only participated in the audition. The director hasn't decided on the female lead yet, so I'm not considered part of the entertainment industry. Besides, I don't have any background. I really don't understand why you're inviting me to be your partner, Yun Shirshir rejected politely. Xiao Shui was dumbfounded by her rejection. Oh my God, was she stupid? Gu Xingze was such a big star. Inviting her to be his partner was an opportunity that many actresses and actresses in the entertainment industry couldn't get. How could she reject it? Gu Xingze wasn't upset. Instead, he raised his eyebrows slightly. Qin Zhou quickly added, "After tomorrow night's cocktail party, there will be a signing ceremony. Yun Shirshir, sign the contract with me." Yun Shirshir finally understood his intention. Gu Xingze had already decided on her. He was planning to use his popularity to pave the way for her to enter the entertainment industry. To put it bluntly, it was nothing more than a publicity stunt. A huge publicity stunt that only Gu Xingze could pull off. The first step he took was to be ambitious. It seemed that he was determined to support her. But why was he so good to her? Yun Shirshir nodded elegantly. Her voice was as clear as spring water. Sure. If that's the case, I'll accept your offer. Lin Fengtian nodded satisfactorily. This girl was unfazed by honor and disgrace. She was calm and collected. Her status in the industry would definitely be everlasting. Let's go, Shirshir. A friend, I'll drive you, Lin Fengtian said. Beside them, Executive Director Mo Chi saw the situation and his face suddenly flashed with an inexplicable panic. Director Lin, Xingze, come over here for a moment. Miss Yun, please excuse me. I have something to discuss with Director Lin and Xingze. He pulled the two of them aside with a smile and his face immediately darkened. Director Lin, it's not that I have a problem with it, but you've decided on the female lead just like that? Isn't it inappropriate? Gu Xingze smiled but didn't say anything. When Lin Fengtian made the decision to cast Yun Shirshir, the film crew was naturally anxious. The executive directors had all received a lot of benefits. Many popular starlets in this movie had extended an olive branch, but Lin Fengtian did not accept it. All the benefits were given to the other people in charge of the production team. Now that an unknown newcomer had been chosen, there were naturally people who were anxious. Lin Fengtian looked dissatisfied. What? Why wasn't it suitable? You've seen Shirshir's performance with your own eyes. She's a rare genius. They were already calling each other so intimately. Could there be something going on between the two of them? That couldn't be. In his impression, Lin Fengtian was a film addict who was dedicated to making excellent movies. He was different from other directors who were lustful. He had never slept with a woman before. She's still a newcomer. She has no name, no background, and no affinity with the audience. What will the investors of this movie think after you've made the decision? Mo Chi advised earnestly. So what if she's a newcomer? Look at her performance. Whether it's her acting or her appearance, she's so similar to Yin Xiachuan in the original novel. How can I not be moved by such a person standing in front of me? Lin Fengtian was full of praise. But didn't the investors intend to promote another female artist? It's that one Yan Bingqing. Chapter 106. Yan Bingqing? That carpet star? She's just a pretty face. She's either a white lotus or a naive sweet girl. What good works did he produce throughout the year? Other than acting coquettishly on the red carpet at the film festival, she has nothing but a pretty face and acting talent. Yan Bingqing was an A-list actress who relied on scandals to rise to the top. She was at the height of her fame and popularity. She had a lot of tricks up her sleeves and had some background. She had a few investors behind her and was not someone to be trifled with. 10 years ago, the 16-year-old Yan Bingqing acted in a supporting role in a Qing dynasty drama. Although it was a supporting role, she had a lot of screen time. Back then, this Qing dynasty drama was popular all over the country. The main cast members shot to fame and their values skyrocketed. She, on the other hand, was not as famous as the main cast and was gradually buried. Later, she hooked up with a mysterious investor. This investor found a public relations team for her and used scandals to hype her up, making her the queen of hot topics. However, Yan Bingqing was a complete flower vase with no acting skills. She had the background, the backing, and the resources. Until now, the only work that mentioned her was the maid in the Qing dynasty drama from 10 years ago. Last year, she acted in a palace drama and acted as the female lead. She acted as the romantic empress of a generation and turned into a white lotus. Lin Fengtian really didn't like her acting skills. Previously, director Yan wanted to promote a little model with the surname Han. She was dressed in tacky rouge and her face was unrecognizable. What do those investors think my movie is? That they can be in it just because they want to? Mo Chi broke out in cold sweat but still shamelessly tried to persuade him. Not far away, Xiao Shui couldn't help but mutter, Sure, what are they talking about? Look at how angry Director Lin is. I don't know, Yun Shirshir said as she caught a glimpse of a familiar figure not far away. She looked over and was inwardly shocked. Xianxia. Xianxia's name was known by everyone in the industry. He was famous not because of the number of popular works he had, but because of the notoriety of his debauched private life. It was rumored that his background was extremely tough, and this man was quite ruthless. There were also rumors that he had a very scary underworld background. Most of the small stars in the entertainment industry did not dare to offend such a person. The newcomers in the industry came one after another. Many female celebrities were willing to sacrifice their chastity in order to become famous. However, none of the female celebrities dared to climb onto Xianxia's bed. All of them avoided him. Ling liked women, but he had a perverted taste in bed. He liked both men and women, and had played with many artists. As far as Xianxia knew, he had taken a few gangster bosses to gang rape a Miss World more than 90 years ago. However, the Miss World had gone crazy overnight and had contracted a terrible disease. In less than 2 years, she had died of depression. The limelight was suppressed by Xianxia. However, most people in the circle were influenced by his evil deeds. If the artist's management company wasn't tough enough, Xianxia would be able to play whoever he wanted. Why was he here? Could it be that he was using the audition as an excuse to pick a few young models to play with? Xianxia and another producer walked out of the bathroom while talking and laughing. From their proud faces, it seemed that they had gained a lot today. Chapter 107. One of the producers had a dispirited look on his face. After an entire morning of interviews, he seemed to be a little fatigued. Thus, when he saw such a beautiful girl, he naturally felt an itch in his heart. He recklessly sized up the calm girl in front of him and laughed. "Aya, this girl is quite pretty. What's your name?" Xianxia also looked at her. It was just that such a good-looking person with such a beautiful and moving face, but her temperament was cold and indifferent. He was already so close to her, but she still did not have the slightest reaction. It was as if she treated their existence as air. It was not an exaggeration to say that she did not see them. Xianxia turned to leave, completely ignoring them. The two of them couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. The producer said, "Hey," but when he saw that she was still indifferent and didn't even look at them, he was instantly angry. He reached out to grab her hand, but she evaded without a trace and turned to leave expressionlessly. She didn't want to have anything to do with Xianxia. This man's background was too scary. She didn't want to have anything to do with him. When Xianxia saw that, he exclaimed, "Whoa." He stared at her back view with round eyes and mocked coldly, "This girl has quite a character. She's probably here for the audition. She really doesn't know the rules. She has eyes but can't recognize MT-Tai. She doesn't know who is in front of her. She actually dares to act all high and mighty in front of director He." As he said that, the producer turned to look at Xianxia. "Am I right, director He?" Xianxia ignored him, but he was interested in the delicate girl in front of him. He went forward and grabbed her arm. "Classmate, I'm talking to you. Why are you ignoring me?" "That's right. Little classmate, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." The producer also glared at her from the side. She was a dog that bullied others because of her master's power. Sure, ignore him. One look and you can tell that he's not a good person. Little did he know that this name caused Xianxia's eyes to brighten up a little. Sure. He frowned as he repeated the name a few times. Then he grabbed Xianxia's wrist tightly. "This student, I think you have a good temperament and good looks. Why didn't you come to the audition? Who knows, maybe you'll be chosen as the female lead." Xianxia faintly said, "Thank you for your kindness, Director He. It's just that I admit that my aptitude is mediocre, and I can't enter the eyes of the directors." "How could that be? I think you're pretty good. You're much better than those girls who were interviewed before. Even if you don't get chosen, it's not like you don't have a chance." Xianxia's tall and strong body leaned towards her suggestively. His voice was a little hoarse. "I wonder if you've heard of my name? I'm also a director. As long as you're willing, I can let you be the female lead in my next movie." Xianxia was shocked. She took a few steps back to get away from him, but he grabbed her arm and she couldn't move at all. She looked up. Because of her embarrassment, she raised her voice slightly. Let go. What? This classmate, I'm so fond of you. Are you trying to embarrass me? Xianxia's gaze was slightly cold. Seeing this, the smile on Xiao Shue's face faded. She walked towards Xianxia angrily. Yun Shishir immediately grabbed her arm and persuaded, Xiao Shui, don't. I don't think they're good people. If you go over like this, something will happen. Chapter 108. Yun Shishir didn't want to bother with Xianxia, but he kept pestering her. She turned around to look at him and saw that he was sizing her up with his bloodshot eyes. He was obviously satisfied. Yun Shishir heard footsteps behind her. At the same time, she saw Xiao Shui walking toward her. She grabbed Xianxia's shoulder and raised her hand to slap him hard on the face, causing the students passing by to gasp in shock. Xiao Shui. Oh. Yun Shishir's head exploded. Xiao Shui actually slapped Xianxia? She wasn't an impulsive person. On the contrary, she had always been calm and knew how to wait and see. However, she didn't know why, but when it came to Yun Shishir, she couldn't calm down no matter what. She was especially enraged when she saw the lecherous man holding on to Yun Shishir's arm and refusing to let go. With a slap, Xianxia was thrown to the ground in a sorry state. He propped himself up and spat out a mouthful of blood. 2 of his teeth had been knocked out. His face was flushed red with anger at once. Yun Shishir saw this and her heart was suffocated for a moment. Xiao Shui used to be a black belt master in the Taekwondo club. Damn it! How dare you hit him? The producer at the side scolded and quickly helped Xianxia up. His fierce eyes swept in the direction of Yun Shishir and Xiao Shui. The onlooking female students didn't expect Xiao Shui to hit him without saying a word. They also didn't expect to provoke such a powerful person. They immediately turned around and rushed to find the teacher to save the situation. However, Xiao Shui was fearless. Why would she be afraid of their provocation? She was still young and was just an overseas student who had returned to the country. She hadn't experienced the bloody storms of society, so naturally, she didn't know what the identity of the man in front of her meant. She wasn't afraid. This was a lawful society and this was a school. How could they let some shady people endanger the safety of students? Shishir, are you okay? Did he do anything to you? Xiao Shui turned around and looked at her nervously. Let's go. Yun Shishir didn't even think about it and didn't intend to stay any longer. She hooked her finger and Xiao Shui nodded knowingly. Just as she was about to take a step forward, the 2 men rudely blocked their way, their faces full of malice. Classmate, you want to run away after beating someone up? Who gave you the guts? What's your name? Which entertainment company is he from? Xiao Shui took a deep breath and said coldly, Get out of my way. When the producer saw his arrogant attitude, his eyes became even fiercer. What kind of attitude are you using to talk to me here? Xiao Shui frowned. She was a typical tomboy. Without any provocation, she grabbed the collar of the producer. The 2 of them did not agree and started to push each other. Xiao Shui subconsciously protected Yun Shishir. She was afraid that she would be involved in the fight, so she pushed her to the side. However, she didn't expect that she would lose her balance after being pushed, so she felt dizzy and her body leaned back. Boom! He bumped into a human wall. His body was firmly supported by a strong arm. A wisp of unique masculine body fragrance brushed the tip of her nose. It was charming and elegant. Through the high-end shirt, she seemed to be able to feel the man's stalwart and heroic physique, as well as the strong beating of his heart. Chapter 109. Yun Shishir couldn't help but frown in pain. She looked up and saw that in the chaos, the surroundings suddenly became quiet, as if time had stopped. She felt strange and looked in the direction of Xianxia and Xiao Shui, only to see that the group of people had already frozen. The funniest one was Xianxia. His hand that was holding Xiao Shui's collar gradually loosened. His face was full of shock. His pair of absent-minded eyes stared in the direction behind her, and fear slowly appeared in his eyes. His companion, who was standing beside him, also stared at the person behind her with an extremely strange expression, as if he had seen a ghost. She retracted her gaze in astonishment and raised her head, only to see a fair and clean hand quietly stretching out in front of her. Under the sunlight, the silver buttons on the sleeves of the suit reflected the dazzling light. This was a man's hand, but it was very well maintained. The fingertips were moist and flawless, and the joints were slender. Xianxia raised her head, only to be met with a pair of deep, almond-shaped eyes. The handsome man in front of her stood tall and elegant. He looked very young, barely in his 20s, but he exuded a mature and experienced aura. His every movement could not hide the subduing aura of an emperor. This kind of aura was natural. At a glance, one could tell that he was a man who had experienced many bloody storms and was indifferent by nature. Rather than saying that he was indifferent, it was better to say that he was innately cold. Wherever he stood, this aura melted into the air and spread to every corner. Behind him was a group of tall men in suits and leather shoes. They bowed their heads and stood behind the man. It was like a group of stars worshipping a star. Wuxia, Xianxia's expression was a little stiff. Xiaoshui, who was beside her, was mesmerized. She saw the man lowered his head and quietly stood in front of her. His black suit made him look noble and extraordinary. His posture was casual and elegant. The sunlight engraved a gentle and evil shadow on the contours of his face. At this moment, from her angle, there was some backlight, so she couldn't see his face clearly. But even so, she caught a glimpse of his extraordinarily handsome facial features that were shockingly beautiful. They were exquisite like the work of the gods. His handsome eyebrows and well-defined facial features seemed to be mixed with the noble blood of ancient Europe. He was cold and arrogant, but there was a kind of elegant charm unique to Eastern men between his eyebrows, deep and flirtatious. Without a doubt, this was an extremely handsome man. However, this handsomeness was absolutely not just on the surface. It was as if he was born with it in his bones. He was like an emperor of the ancient times, noble and arrogant. His standing still attracted the attention of the men in suits behind him. They were a little curious about what kind of person could attract their master's attention, so they all looked over and their gazes fell on her. Xianxia suddenly felt like her body was being pricked by sharp needles. She supported herself on her knees and tried to stand up, but ignored the man's outstretched hand. Chapter 110. The man naturally saw the proud and stubborn attitude on her face. He slowly retracted his hand and tightened his sleeves. However, he did not say anything for a long time. His thin lips parted slightly, and the corners of his mouth slowly curled up, outlining an unfathomable arc. Xianxia saw that his gaze was always on her, and she felt a little uncomfortable. She didn't understand. Who was this man? Why was she always able to meet him when she was down and out? Xianxia didn't want to pay attention to him. She patted the dust off her body and turned to leave. However, a cold and deep voice came from behind her. "Stop." The man spoke very softly. His words were as precious as gold, but his voice was very pleasant. It was deep and full of magnetism. It was mellow like aged wine. One sip and it was easy to get drunk. She slightly paused and turned around to look at the man. Her eyebrows knitted even deeper. "Mister, what can I do for you? You're leaving just like that?" Wuxia found it funny. Other women couldn't wait to get close to him when they saw him, but she avoided him like he was the plague. Could it be that she was guilty? Wuxia's lips curved into a smile. This unfathomable smile made Xianxia feel a little dazzled. She said indifferently, "I'm not familiar with you, right?" Her tone was a little impatient and even very distant. Hearing this, the attendants behind her were stunned. They had never seen anyone who dared to speak so rudely in front of the young master. It had to be known that with the young master's noble status and background, even the government officials had to be courteous. Therefore, when they saw her being so rude, their faces immediately showed disgust. However, the man wasn't angry at her cold expression. He took a few steps closer to her, and the smile on his lips deepened. He whispered in her ear, "Not familiar? But we've slept together." Xianxia's face was tense for a moment. She smiled faintly, but her voice was cold. "Mr. Mu, so you're shameless?" Shameless? Is that shameless?" Wuxia smiled deeply. Do you want to see something even more shameless? She naturally didn't know the identity of the man in front of her, and Xiao Xue naturally didn't care about the origin of the man, but it didn't mean that He Lingxiang and the others didn't know. She was so close to him, so flirtatious, that everyone present was even more shocked. Especially He Lingxiang's group, they more or less understood the status of men. He Lingxiang had been in the circle for so many years and had seen countless people. He more or less had to be clear about the people and families at the peak of the world. After all, he couldn't simply offend them. Who exactly was this mysterious young man? They had never seen him before, and they didn't know what his identity was. However, there were some familiar faces in the crowd behind the man. Although they were now bowing their heads and following behind the man submissively, any one of them was a big shot in the underworld who would cause people to change their faces. For example, the middle-aged man standing at the back of the group was one of the top bosses in the capital. He was in charge of the businesses of several groups and supported several groups of forces. He was the current master of the capital's underworld, and his words were absolute. Chapter 111. In this day and age, there weren't many people who did business with clean hands. The reason why they were able to rise miraculously in the business world in the past 2 years was that they had some kind of unclear relationship with the underworld. It was said that a few of them had made a fortune by smuggling, and now they were doing very well. Among them, there was no lack of high-ranking officials and leaders from other provinces and even the government. Most of them had great power in Jingdu, but they were rarely seen. All of them held great power and were important. As for the few tall men standing in front of the crowd, after He Lingxiang recognized them, their faces couldn't help but turn pale. These people were from the Mu family. The Mu family was a famous and huge family. They were also the descendants of the largest family in the country and even in Asia. However, He Lingxiang did not know anything about his background. It wasn't that he didn't have enough information, but with his status, he didn't have the right to ask. This family could be said to be secretive in the underworld, never revealing their talents. He only heard that the Mu family had a big business and the forces under them were both from the underworld and the underworld. Years ago, the Mu family had established Dishing Financial Group through bleaching, and the industry chain under their name was entrenched in the global financial industry. The outside world called this low-key but prominent family business the Mu Empire. Whether it was in the country, Asia, North America, or some countries in Western Europe, the Mu family's power spanned across the board and was the revered leader. With the Mu family's century-old business and foundation, people who weren't in charge of the Mu family didn't know how vast the Mu family's business was. He only heard that a few years ago, a country had run into the Mu family's gun because of some political conflict. That year, Dishing Financial Group withdrew all its investments from the country's industries and cancelled all long-term transactions. This caused the country's economy to rapidly regress to the pre-liberation era. The country had no choice but to tighten its belt and learn to be a better person. Each of these big shots could shake the earth and shake the mountains, but now, they were all standing respectfully behind the man. He Lingxiang only felt fear toward the identity of the man in front of him. However, this Yun Shishir dared to give this man a hard time in front of so many people? He Lingxiang sneered in his heart. Wasn't this a slap to his face in front of so many people? She was afraid that her end would not be pretty. His heart was filled with pride. Sure enough, he saw a fierce-looking, cold-faced man in the crowd about to step forward and teach this girl who didn't know what was good for her. However, when he raised his head, he saw that his master had turned his face slightly. His expression was extremely cold, and that gaze contained a hidden warning. His heart trembled, and he immediately understood. He immediately retreated without batting an eyelid. They didn't understand the man's intentions. The young girl in front of him was neither a relative nor a friend, yet she kept giving him attitude. This was clearly a great disrespect to the boss. However, the boss did not seem to be angry at all. Could it be that their master's iron tree had blossomed? Boss, who had never been interested in women, was finally enlightened? One had to know that the boss was young and full of vigor. He was in the prime of his life, but he had always been cold and unfeeling. Chapter 112. There were rumors and slanders about him. Although he had a fiancée in name, they seemed to be in love with each other. Some people even speculated that there was something fishy about his sexual orientation. Otherwise, there was a problem in that area. However, these were all just people's guesses. There were also rumors that his fiancée was infertile. Mu Yichen's biological mother was someone else. Grandpa Mu had been anxious all these years. He was so anxious that his hair had turned white. Firstly, Grandpa Mu placed great importance on passing down the family line. There were 3 ways to be unfilial, and having no descendants was the worst. He was the only one left in the Mu family. It was time for him to start a family. However, Mu Yaja had not married yet. Mu Wanru's so-called fiancée had become a joke. Secondly, Grandpa Mu had heard a lot of rumors from the outside world, and he was annoyed by them. He had been busy looking for surrogate mothers for Mu Yichen all these years. From international socialites to the daughters of the upper class, he had paid attention to those who were well-matched in terms of social status. However, Grandpa Mu had seen many people, but he did not like many of them. He was even more strict than the emperors in ancient times. As they thought about this, they looked at each other and exchanged a few glances. They were well aware of each other's guesses. This time, it was He Lingxiang's turn to be dumbfounded. Who exactly was Yun Shishir? Yun Shishir could tell that this group of people was not simple. She recognized the mayor of Jing City standing in the crowd. She had seen him in the newspaper some time ago and had some impression of him. While she was trying to figure out the man's intention, a series of messy footsteps came from not far away. There were also a few men's disdainful curses and noises. It turned out that they were He Lingxiang's henchmen, the producer, who had called them over. They rushed over as soon as they received the call. They thought that someone was causing trouble. However, when He Lingxiang turned around and saw his henchmen, his face turned pale. He turned around and glared at the producer. The producer beside him heard the commotion and knew that his henchmen had rushed over. However, he frowned when he saw the situation. Yun Shishir looked in the direction of the voice. Judging from their rude and unreasonable gait, it was not hard to tell that they had some background and were clearly relying on He Lingxiang's influence. However, when she saw the lineup at the entrance, she could not help but be stunned. Ultimately, they were not as perceptive as He Lingxiang. With his qualifications, how could he come into contact with people of such status? Naturally, he did not recognize the big shots in this crowd. Director He, who are these people? Why are they crowding around the door? He Lingxiang turned around and waved at the men in suits. Hurry up and leave. Don't crowd around here. If you disturb the director's selection, you'll have to bear the consequences. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw that everyone's expressions were calm. Seeing that He Lingxiang was standing there in a daze, he couldn't help but go up and put his arm around his shoulder. The young man smiled and said, Director He, who are these people? Could it be that these brats have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai and are looking for trouble with you? He pointed at Xiao Shui. He Lingxiang's face turned even paler. He then pointed at the indifferent man standing beside Yun Shishir. His attitude became even more arrogant. Or is it this brat? This. Chapter 113. He Lingxiang smiled bitterly and shook his head. His face was unsightly as he winked at him a few times. However, this person was not enlightened. He even mistakenly thought that He Lingxiang meant the trouble caused by the black suits, and his heart was filled with anger. Hey, I told you not to crowd around here. Didn't you hear me? After he finished speaking, he took the lead and rushed over. Just as he was about to put his hand on the man's shoulder, he saw that the handsome man did not avoid him. He stood there arrogantly and did not even look at him. At that moment, the assistant only saw a black shadow flash in front of him. Before he could understand what was going on, his wrist was firmly grabbed by the man who rushed out from the crowd. A heart-wrenching pain came from his wrist. With a twist and a turn, his entire body was thrown into the air. He was thrown a few meters away by a huge force and slammed heavily into the wall, causing it to crack. The assistant fell to the ground in a sorry state. He felt a surge in his chest and vomited a mouthful of blood. He immediately rolled his eyes and fainted. Yun Shishir was shocked. When Xiao Shui saw this, she could not help but be shocked. She took a step forward and wanted to bring Yun Shishir back to her side. However, at that moment, She saw a man who was not tall but had a shocking aura slowly walk out from the crowd. The man stood still and scanned the surroundings with his eyes that were as sharp as a blade. His voice was thick and dignified. "What kind of trash are you? Do you think you have the right to act rashly in my territory?" When these words came out, Xianxia and the rest were so shocked that they immediately knelt on the ground. Their bodies were trembling and they did not dare to make a sound. The one who spoke was Lin Xiaojing, the leader of the Qingyang gang, one of the most powerful men in the capital. Speaking of Lin Xiaojing, his position was not shallow. He could be considered the leader of the Qingyang gang in Beijing. Now, most of the organizations in Beijing were completely controlled by the Qingyang gang. Many management companies in the entertainment industry had some background in both the underworld and the underworld. The Qingyang gang supported several management companies. The headquarters of the Qingyang gang was located in the capital and had many branches. It had hundreds of thousands of members, which showed its influence. Lin Xiao was the head of such a gang, which meant that he was the highest leader of the gang. This area was nominally under his jurisdiction. Therefore, for someone to cause trouble in his territory, let alone in front of a big shot from the Mu family in the capital, this was an act of insubordination. He glanced at Ling Xiangyuan, who was kneeling on the ground silently, and asked, "What's your name?" Ling Xiang was shocked. He was terrified of Lin Feng's threat. Suddenly, he thought of something. He raised his head and carefully said, "Boss Lin. In fact, I am. Your voice is too soft. I can't hear you." Lin Xiaojing said impatiently. Ling Xiang closed his eyes and mustered his courage to raise his voice. "My name is Ling Xiang. May I ask?" "This is..." He smiled apologetically as he carefully looked at the tall man who was surrounded by the crowd. Respect immediately appeared on Lin Xiaojing's face as he said to Ling Xiang, "Is Disheng Financial Group's chairman Mu someone of your status can inquire about?" Ling Xiang, who had always been arrogant, could not help but be shocked. He said incoherently, "Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I didn't know how to appreciate favors. I actually didn't recognize that this is Disheng Financial Group's chairman Mu." Chapter 114. He was trembling with fear when he was suddenly interrupted by an abrupt voice. "What's the matter? Why are there so many people at the entrance?" Lin Fengtian had just walked out of the audition venue when he vaguely heard a strange commotion downstairs. He hurried over, only to see such a scene. While he was still in shock, he caught sight of the slender figure in the crowd and said with a curious expression, "Chairman Mu. What brings you here today?" Mu Yaja glanced at him coldly but did not bother with him. In such a big company like Huanyu, Lin Fengtian was, without a doubt, the most wily old fox. Unfortunately, this person was a little special and had some tricks up his sleeve. He was a rare talent, so Mu Yaja could not be bothered with him. Lin Fengtian chuckled. He turned his gaze and saw Xianxia, who was tightly protected by Xiao Shui, and understood what had happened. "Brother Mu." Suddenly, a shy and sweet figure barged in. Everyone turned around and saw a well-dressed girl in an aqua blue pleated dress running toward Mu Yaja happily. She pushed away Xianxia, who was standing in front of Mu Yaja. Where did this woman come from to block Brother Mu? What an eyesore! She secretly glared at Xianxia before turning to face Mu Yaja with a charming smile. "Brother Mu, why are you here? Did you specially come here to see me?" Lu Jingtian, 20 years old, was the eldest daughter of the capital's military and political elite. She was also the top socialite of the upper class. The Mus and Lus had been on good terms for generations, so there was a rumor that Lu Jingtian was originally the crown princess that old Master Mu had his eyes on. Unfortunately, the concubine had feelings for him, and the man had no such intentions. The young master of the Mu family had watched her grow up, so the two had a close relationship. Lu Jingtian, the eldest daughter of the Lu family, had a crush on the young master of the Mu family. This was no secret in the capital's rich and powerful families. Mu Yaja took great care of Lu Jingtian, doting on her no matter how trivial the matter was. He treated her like his most beloved younger sister. However, to Mu Yaja, their relationship was just that. Lu Jingtian stared at him in a daze. The name Mu Yaxia had left a deep imprint in her heart. Just hearing it made her heart go numb. How much did she love this man whom she had admired since she was young? Even in her dreams, she hoped that he would take a second look at her. Alas, his eyes seemed to be looking in Xianxia's direction, and she could not help but steal a few more glances at him. In her heart, she admitted that this girl was very beautiful. Guanyu Corporation controlled almost half of the entertainment industry. Having followed Mu Yaxia around, she could be said to have seen countless people and had seen many beautiful women. However, what she could not help but be jealous of was that this girl's looks were different from those who were vulgar. She was delicate, elegant, and natural, without a trace of impurity. It was as if all the beautiful words in the world could not be used to describe this girl's otherworldly beauty. She had overheard Lin Fengtian's words not far away, and she felt even more jealous. The reason why Lu Jingtian wanted to enter the entertainment industry was none other than to appear in Mu Yajia's sight more often. Lin Fengtian was the ace director she dreamed of befriending, but she seemed to have heard that this big shot was willing to lower himself and take the initiative to sign a contract with this girl. Chapter 115. At the thought of this, panic flashed across her heart. Seemingly wanting to establish her high and mighty status, she immediately turned to face Mu Yaxia with a smile. "Brother Mu, why are you ignoring me?" Mu Yaxia lowered his eyes slightly and finally saw her for the first time with his slightly cold eyes. "Director Lin is here today too. He's a judge. Why don't we have coffee together after this audition?" Lu Jingtian naturally hooked her arm around his. Her coquettish tone sounded very intimate to outsiders. She deliberately raised her voice, for no other reason than to announce in front of everyone that she had a close relationship with the most respected young master of the Mu family, the most prestigious family in the capital. Earlier in the audition waiting room, there was actually a newcomer who did not know what was good for her. Now, she was silently announcing her illustrious status. In the crowd, Yun Na's eyes flashed with horror. This girl actually has connections with the rich and powerful of the upper-class society? Naturally, she did not know who Mu Yaxia was, but she recognized the mayor of the capital. Now that she saw him standing respectfully behind that tall and handsome man, who was actually close to that girl, she could not help but wonder why he was so close to her. She could not help but shudder. Earlier in the waiting room, she seemed to have caused trouble for this girl. Could this Lu Jingtian be planning to take revenge on her? Mu Yaxia naturally saw through her vanity, but he did not expose her. "Your grandpa asked me to visit you." Hearing this, Yun Xiaxia's eyes darkened slightly. It turned out that this man was here to visit her. When Lu Jingtian heard this, her vanity was satisfied and she pretended to be angry. "He must be here to let you talk about me again. Grandpa has always disapproved of me entering the entertainment industry, but I love acting. Brother Mu, this is my dream." Mu Yajia's lips curled into an elegant smile, but he did not say a word. Lu Jingtian continued, "Brother Yaxia, didn't you invest in this movie? Jingtian really wants to play the female lead." Mu Yaxia took a step forward with Lu Jingtian following closely behind him. Behind them was a mighty entourage. The crowd gradually moved further and further away, just like an emperor in ancient times patrolling the land under his control, proud and noble. "Let's go, Xianxia, and the girl beside you, this girl I'll drive you," Lin Fengtian said. Everyone walked to the door. When Xiao Shui saw the shiny black Rolls-Royce Phantom, her soul almost left her body. Like a happy child, he circled the car a few times. Good heavens! Rich people! This car was an imported antique. Lin Fengtian, who was watching from the side, was stunned. This little girl. Brother Lin. Xiao Shui immediately pinched her orchid fingers and came up to him. "Can I take a few selfies?" she said as she pointed at the luxury car beside her. "It's right beside this car." "Sure," Lin Fengtian agreed. She immediately took out her phone and took a few selfies beside the car. She put on all kinds of coquettish expressions, but in the eyes of others, she was all kinds of flirtatious. "All right. Get in the car first," Lin Fengtian said to Yun Xiaxia. But Xiao Shui, on the other hand, was very excited. She happily got into the back seat first, leaving Yun Xiaxia behind. Xianxia could not help feeling a little flustered. Everyone got into the car one after another, but no one noticed the pair of eyes watching them from behind. Those eyes were filled with evil thoughts. Chapter 116. This Xianxia was really capable. But so what? Wouldn't it be more fun to sleep with a woman that the big boss had his eyes on? What kind of person was Wuxia? Why would he fall for a newcomer with no status or background? The entertainment industry was full of talents, and there was never a lack of beautiful women. With Wuxia's status, what kind of woman wouldn't come and go as he pleased? The women that Wuxia played with, the leftovers would be pretty good too. As He Lingxiang thought evilly, he fiercely clenched the stack of Xianxia's information in his hand. Suddenly, his thoughts were interrupted by a delicate voice from the side. Hello. Hello, may I ask if you are Director He Lingxiang? He Lingxiang turned around and saw Yunna with no makeup on. Yunna had just washed off all the makeup on her face, and it actually looked cleaner. Even though her face was still slightly swollen, it didn't stop others from judging her beauty. Yunna's beauty was different from Xianxia's naivety and pure beauty. She was flirtatious, like a seductress who charmed the emperor in ancient times. If she were to play a character like Daji, she would definitely be pleasing to the eyes. She was petite and wasn't as tall as Xianxia. Her fair little face, coupled with her shy and timid appearance, made her look even more fragile. Yunna had unintentionally catered to his tastes. He Lingxiang had recently liked this kind of taste. The moment he saw her, the look in his eyes changed. Seeing that he didn't say anything, Yunna was naturally pleased. Under the attack of her expression, very few men could resist. So what if He Lingxiang had been on the battlefield for a long time? Wasn't he still tempted at the sight of women? Director He, my name is Yunna. I'm a professional at an art school. I admire you very much. You are a very talented director. Oh, right, I saw your movie Blood Rose last year. It's still the greatest movie in my heart. Blood Rose? Bad script, bad production, and bad reputation. How could a shoddy movie make her feel like she had found a treasure? The meaning of her words was self-evident. Yunna wasn't someone from the entertainment industry. She only knew that He Lingxiang was of a similar status, but she didn't know about his misdeeds. Therefore, she didn't know how ignorant her actions were. How could He Lingxiang reject a woman who threw herself into his arms? It just so happened that he had nowhere to vent his anger this afternoon. He intimately approached her, grabbed her wrist, and pulled her into his arms. Under the cover of the tree, his hand wantonly attacked the softness in front of her chest. He lowered his head and bit her ear. Yunna pretended to be flustered like a startled bunny, and her hands powerlessly pushed against his chest while the surprise in her eyes couldn't be concealed. Director He, there was a faint fragrance on her body, which made He Lingxiang's blood rush to his head, and he was a little dazed. From the looks of it, this girl was still a virgin? He Lingxiang was not a man who would reject anyone, but he was very satisfied with Yunna. Didn't you say that you admire me the most? He Lingxiang was very satisfied with her performance as he said the most vulgar words. You sent yourself to my doorstep and said these words. If others heard this, I'm afraid they would think that I have an ulterior motive. Yunna kept the meaning of his words a secret. At this moment, the two of them were close together, and the changes in their bodies made each of them understand what the other wanted. She was a little afraid. The entertainment industry was like a tiger's den, so how could she not be afraid? However, when she thought of Xianxia's smug look and how she might be able to pass the audition, clinch the female lead role in this movie, and step into showbiz with glory, her heart was filled with jealousy. Jealousy was like an evil demonic branch, entrenching her heart, causing her to begin to use every means possible to achieve it. Director He, it's not convenient to talk here. Why don't? Yunna smiled charmingly. Let's go somewhere else? Okay. He Lingxiang was naturally waiting for this sentence. Chapter 117. Huanyu Tower. A man stood by the window, his tall and straight figure proudly overlooking the rows of tall buildings outside. His pair of handsome eyes were deep and distant. Earlier, the board of directors had a heated confrontation over the female lead of The Green Apple. This time, the female lead had already been decided internally. The audition was just a publicity stunt for the movie's release. However, Lin Fengtian was absent from this meeting. Over the phone, his stance was very clear. He had taken a liking to Xianxia and had decided to support this newcomer with outstanding qualifications. The investors and producers were in an uproar when they heard this and voted against it unanimously. Lu Jingtian had already been decided as the female lead. How did an unknown newcomer appear out of nowhere and mesmerize Lin Fengtian? When Lin Fengtian heard that Lu Jingtian had been decided internally, he immediately said that he would not continue filming. The art of film, which he pursued, was now in such a foul state. He was so angry that he said that it had to be Xianxia. When the executive director said that he would not continue filming, the production team was collectively dumbfounded. They lined up to apologize to Lin Fengtian. The script was good, but Lin Fengtian's influence was not to be underestimated. If they lost him, this movie would be nothing. Without him, the box office appeal would collapse by half. The meeting ended on bad terms. Lu Jingtian, who was standing at the side, had also witnessed the actress's audition. Recalling that breathtakingly beautiful scene, she could not help but feel a little jealous. This person called Xianxia had skillfully portrayed Xianxuan's most essential innocence and beauty with her skillful acting. She was originally quite satisfied with her audition performance, but now that she saw it again, it was obvious who was better. Her crying scene was too pretentious. She's quite opportunistic. Lu Jingtian said indignantly. She raised her head to look at Mu Yaja and asked in a half-aggrieved and half-tentative manner, "Brother Mu, you'll definitely get the female lead role in this movie. It's for Jinggan, right?" Mu Yaja lowered his head to look at her without saying a word. She quickly tugged at his arm and coquettishly said, "Brother Mu, I really like this novel. It's my biggest dream to play the role of Xianxuan. Brother Mu, this is a small wish, you can't satisfy me?" Mu Yaja pulled his hand out without a trace. His tone was calm but slightly indifferent. "Jing, I dote on you because your grandfather asked me to. But for me, I have a clear distinction between public and private matters. The movie was released by Huanyu. I'll invest, but I won't ask about the main character." "Brother Mu." Lu Jingtian's face flushed red as she choked on her words for the first time. She knew that the lead actor would be chosen by the director, but that was not the case in the entertainment industry. Usually, in a movie, the director rarely had the right to speak. Even a director as arrogant as Lin Fengtian had to consider the investors of the film. Huanyu was this movie's biggest investor, so it was needless to say how much power the company had. Mu Yaja returned to his desk and said lightly, "You're not a child anymore. I won't indulge you every time you act coquettishly. Brother Mu, get out." Mu Yaja lost his patience and coldly ordered. Lu Jingtian was startled. She knew that he had lost his patience, so she did not dare to anger him further and retreated resentfully. Just as she left, Aaron knocked on the door and entered. "Chairman Mu." Mu Yaja leaned gracefully against the back of his chair and looked at him with a pair of sharp eyes. Chapter 118. For some reason, the man's deep gaze made him shudder. He suddenly felt uneasy. Perhaps due to his guilty conscience, he did not even dare to raise his head. This man stood at the pinnacle of power. With a wave of his hand, he could turn the world upside down. His king-like aura seemed to be innate and intimidating. He, on the other hand, had betrayed this terrifying man. Until now, he was still in a state of shock. If the president found out that the investigation report had been tampered with, he would personally eliminate him. Just as he was lost in thought, Mu Yaja looked up and called, "Aaron." "Yes," Mu Yaja asked with a half-smile, "How long have you been with me?" "Boss, I've been with you for 4 years," he answered submissively. Mu Yaja replied faintly, "I valued you back then because of your outstanding ability. You said you wouldn't let me down. I was groomed by you, boss, and I'll be loyal to you for the rest of my life." Mu Yaja nodded and raised his hand with an unfathomable expression. There was a group photo between his fingers. Aaron carefully took the photo and saw the silhouette of a child walking out of a kindergarten with a small school bag. Despite the distance, the child's facial features were clearly presented in terms of angle and resolution. At first glance, The child was 99% similar to Mu Yichen. Whether it was their eyebrows, facial features, or even their mannerisms, the two children seemed to be carved from the same mold. Could there be two identical leaves in the world? This photo was taken by a private investigator hired by Mu Yaxia. When the old man received the photo, he rushed to Mu Yaxia's office in a fit of rage. He pointed at him and fumed. "Bastard! You have an illegitimate child outside? Are you trying to anger me to death? No wonder you're unwilling to marry Ro. Do you have other women outside?" Mu Yaxia was also stunned when he saw the photo. It was no wonder Grandpa Mu was so furious. This child was too similar to him. Especially that pair of eyebrows, which seemed to have perfectly replicated his silhouette. Bloodline was a very mysterious thing. It couldn't be hidden from anyone's eyes. There was no doubt that this was his flesh and blood, and he even disdained to use other methods to verify it. There would be a mystical connection between father and son. It could be said that it was telepathy, but it was hard to explain. It was a kind of bond that dissolved into the blood and bones. This child had been hidden by that woman for as long as 6 years? What were her intentions? Could it be that she coveted glory and wealth and wanted to marry into a rich family with her son? But she didn't seem like a despicable woman. Mu Yaxia had also investigated the woman's background. Alan had also given him an investigation report, and there was no problem, unless someone had tampered with the report. Who could it be? Therefore, he couldn't help but suspect this personal assistant. Could it be that his closest assistant was disloyal to him? As Mu Yaxia looked at him with a hint of scrutiny, Alan's back turned cold. It wasn't that he hadn't seen the president's methods before. He was extremely vicious. He didn't even dare to imagine what would happen to him if the president saw through his tricks. "Alan, I'll give you one more chance. Give me a satisfactory answer." Chapter 119. As Aaron was leaving the office, he bumped into Mu Wanru, who was standing outside the door. Mu Wanru had been standing outside the door for a long time and had overheard much of their conversation. Her face was now ashen, and she looked terrible. His expression changed slightly as he exclaimed, "Shut up." Mu Wanru glared at him fiercely. She went forward to cover his mouth, pushed him to the assistant's office, and quickly locked the door. Bang! Aaron stood there helplessly. Mu Wanru was trembling all over. With her back against the door, her body slid helplessly as if she had fallen into a state of great fear and uneasiness. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Aaron looked at her worriedly. Mu Wanru looked extremely disheveled. Her face was as dark as a sheet of white paper. "What did he say to you? Did you tell him?" She glared at him as if she was on the verge of drowning. "The CO asked me to reinvestigate Yun Shirshir's identity. Everything, big or small, must be thoroughly investigated, including that and the child." Aaron looked at Mu Wanru again, only to see her face turn uglier. "You can't." Mu Wanru's eyes were instantly piercing. "You'll get me killed if you do this." Alan took a deep breath, and a complicated feeling resonated in his chest. "I can't betray the CO again." His face turned pale with pain, and his handsome face contorted. "I've already betrayed him once. How will he know if you don't tell him?" Mu Wanru was like a drowning person who had come back from the jaws of death. Her voice trembled with fear. "If that child is really the CEO's flesh and blood, isn't it good to investigate it thoroughly?" "Why?" he asked in confusion. Mu Wanru, of course, could not tell him why. If the child's identity was found out, Yun Tianyu would be taken back to the Mu family as one of the future heirs of the Mu group. This woman would definitely rise in status because of her son. She was Grandpa Mu's 1 in a million pregnant women. She had excellent conditions. What was even more frightening was that she had given birth to 2 sons for the Mu group. On the other hand, because of her congenital infertility, she was unable to give birth to a son or daughter for the Mu family. Therefore, her position as the young mistress of the Mu family was not secure. The rich and powerful families were deeply rooted and intertwined. If they did not have children to support them, they would not be able to consolidate their position. The only reason why she could do whatever she wanted in the Mu family was because of Grandpa Mu's love for her. However, no matter how hard she tried, she was still unable to enter Mu Yaxia's heart. The only reason Mu Yaja agreed to marry her was because of Grandpa Mu's order. He could not go against it. However, old Master Mu's health was deteriorating year by year. Now, in order to enjoy the rest of his life, Mu Yaja was slowly taking control of Disheng Financial Group. What if he was no longer around? Would she still have a place in the Mu family? Would she be chased out of the family just like that? By then, it was not impossible for Yun Shishir to rise to the top by relying on her son. The scariest thing was, if Grandpa Mu were to find out about Yun Tianyo's identity, he would definitely make him acknowledge his ancestors. Given his means, he would definitely investigate Yun Shishir's background thoroughly. If the incident from more than a decade ago was involved, what would happen when Grandpa Mu learned that she had snatched Yun Shishir's jade and had been impersonating her for more than a decade? Thinking of this, Mu Wanru shuddered. Don't investigate. If you do this, you'll destroy me. Mu Wanru covered her face haggard and sobbed helplessly. She was weeping like a pear blossom in the rain, but in her heart, she was viciously cursing. Chapter 120. D****. She was too slow. This Yun Shishir, B****. Why did it have to be her? Why did it have to be her? Was she going to watch as the wealth and glory that was within her reach was snatched away by her? Looking at her pitiful appearance, Alan's heart ached as if it had been crushed. As a man, no one could reject a weak and helpless woman. Help me. Mu Wanru begged him. She leaned on his chest weakly and helplessly. Her hot tears dampened his shirt. I can't let that child return to the Mu family. Alan, I know you like me. This is the last time. Help me, okay? Mu Wanru's tears flowed down her cheeks. Alan's heart skipped a beat, and he looked at her in disbelief. She knew? They had been classmates in university for 4 years. Her gentleness, beauty, pride, and confidence had always been the most beautiful thing that he yearned for. He loved this girl from the bottom of his heart, but he had never shown it. Because from the beginning, he knew that she was a dream that he would never be able to reach in his life. He was so humble that he could not even confess his feelings to her. He could only look at her silently from afar. After graduating from university, he entered Disheng Financial Group and became Mu Yaja's personal assistant. It was only then that he realized that the man in her heart was as perfect as a god. Wanru, just this once. This is the last time. If you promise to help me, I'll do whatever you want me to do in the future. Mu Wanru begged again. Alan's brows furrowed. Clearly, he was still struggling. Mu Wanru gritted her teeth. She placed her hands on his shoulders, stood on her tiptoes, and kissed him on the lips. Alan was shocked. His body was as stiff as a rock. Mu Wanru pressed her lips against his and said softly, "Is this enough?" "Wanru, don't talk. Hug me." Mu Wanru kissed him on the lips again. Her seductive body was pressed against him, and her seaweed-like hair was tangled together. Mu Wanru's exquisite figure stretched out seductively. She was very coquettish. She usually took great care of her skin. Her exceptional beauty and sexy figure were enough to make any man's heart beat faster. Alan could no longer hold it in. He fell into the fatal trap of gentleness. He lost himself to it. He closed his eyes and followed the most honest thought in his heart. His hands hugged her shoulders, and he traced her charming back. In the office, an incestuous scene. However, neither of them noticed that in a hidden corner of the ceiling, there was a mini pinhole camera hidden in the ceiling. In the evening, Gu Xingzi sent Yun Shishir home. Yun Shishir did not have a decent gown for tomorrow night's cocktail party. Therefore, Gu Xingzi gave her a gown. She was embarrassed to accept it, but Gu Xingzi felt that she was too polite and smiled. "Silly girl, tomorrow night's cocktail party will be a special event. Many gold medal producers and directors from the film festival will be there. Don't tell me you want to wear this school uniform and parade around as my female companion?" Yun Shishir did not know whether to laugh or cry at his words. "All right, don't be so polite with me. If you can sign the contract successfully, remember to treat me to a meal." Gu Xingzi made a condition. Yun Shishir agreed readily. Well, 6 yuan worth of spicy hot pot. It was not that she could not afford it. Chapter 121. By the time Yun Shishir returned to the Yun residence to fetch Yu, it was already 8 p.m. She had already informed Yun Yeqing in advance, but the atmosphere in the living room was still tense. When Li Qin saw Yun Shishir return, she hurriedly went up to her. "Have you seen your younger sister? She's still not back yet? I'm so worried." "Why would I see her?" Yun Shishir pretended to be confused. In fact, she had seen Yun Na today. However, this had nothing to do with her. She could not be bothered to report it to Li Qin. When Yun Yeqing saw her return, he hurriedly went up to her and asked about her well-being, which caused Li Qin to glare at him. Looking at Yun Shishir and thinking about her daughter who had yet to return home, she immediately exploded. "Yun Yeqing, you're really a good father. You're so concerned about this wild seedling, but your biological daughter is still not back yet, and I don't see you asking more about her." Yun Yeqing's face turned ashen when he heard this. "Who are you calling a wild seedling? Also, I'm worried that Nana isn't back yet. What are you talking about?" The two of them started quarreling. Yun Shishir did not want to be involved in such a quarrel and walked toward her room calmly. However, she was stopped by Li Qin behind her. "Stop right there." Yun Shishir turned her head in a lukewarm manner. "What's the matter?" Li Qin noticed the exquisite packaging in her hand. Armani. How could she, who shopped in shopping malls all year round, not know about this international luxury brand? Her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. How did she have such an expensive item? "Where did you get this dress?" "It's none of your business." With that, Yun Shishir walked into her room without looking back. Li Qin was so angry that she almost had a stroke. This wild lass was looking down on her more and more. "What Armani? To me, it's just a cheap knockoff." That night, it suddenly rained. Yun Shishir decided to sleep over at the Yun residence and went to bed early with Yu. At midnight, there was a sudden rainstorm outside the window. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Yun Yeqing and Li Qin were worried when Yun Na did not return for a long time, so they decided to report the matter to the police. The two of them hurriedly prepared to rush over, but they heard a strange noise outside the door. They hurriedly rushed over, only to see Yun Na leaning against the door weakly. They did not know how long she had been standing outside the door. Her hair was drenched, her clothes were slightly messy, and her face was strangely flushed. "Mum," she cried out in a low voice, her voice trembling as if she had suffered a great grievance. Then, a line of tears flowed down her cheeks. Li Qin felt as if a knife was being twisted in her heart. "What's wrong? Nana, come in first." Yun Na was helped into the living room and leaned weakly against the back of the chair. Tears rolled down her cheeks like pearls from a broken necklace. Li Qin looked at her anxiously, her heart aching. "Nana, what's wrong? Tell me, who bullied you?" Yun Na continued to weep but didn't say anything. Right now, her intestines were probably green with regret. This He Lingxiang looked dignified on the surface, but he was actually a beast in human clothing and a beast among beasts. This afternoon, He Lingxiang brought her to a private clubhouse. She thought that she had hooked up with a big tree and was feeling complacent. If she could gain his favor, she might be able to step into the entertainment industry with glory and no longer have to look at Yun Shishir's eyes. Chapter 122. If she could rely on such a backer, her acting career could be said to be unstoppable. Yun Na naively thought that He Lingxiang was bringing her to meet some producer. After all, he had a lot of connections. Little did she know that she had entered a wolf's den of debauchery. She did not want to recall what had happened tonight. She only remembered that before He Lingxiang sent her home, he gave her an invitation and whispered in her ear, "I heard that Gu Xinghe has invited your sister to attend Huan Yu's annual gala tomorrow night. You should attend this gala too." As he said that, a smile with ulterior motives appeared on his face. "Tomorrow night, you and your sister will serve me well. Don't worry, I'll give you benefits." Just imagining the scene of sex was enough to make He Lingxiang impatient. The feeling of having two beautiful sisters together was self-evident. Yun Na suppressed her disgust and grievance and forced a smile. She did not want to be with Yun Shishir. What if it backfired and He Lingxiang did not support her and Yun Shishir instead? She was like a slave today, serving the bosses one by one with a smile. She had suffered great humiliation and did not want to suffer a double loss in the end. She whined, "You're so annoying. Director isn't it enough for me alone? Don't worry. Little sweetheart, you're so hot. Of course, I'll dote on you the most. Don't worry, I won't fall in love with someone else." Yun Na only felt more at ease after Xiang's promise. Li Qin naturally did not know what had happened to her. Seeing her in a daze, she blurted out, "Daughter, have you gone for the audition?" Yun Yecheng raised his head in shock when he heard that. "Did you say that she went for an audition again?" She knew that she had let it slip and bit her lower lip resentfully. Yun Yecheng was furious and expected better from his daughter. "I told you to study hard, but you insisted on becoming an actress? Did we not let you have enough to eat or not have enough clothes to keep you warm? Why do you have to ruin yourself like this?" As soon as Yun Na heard the word, spoil, she immediately felt aggrieved to the point tears streamed down her face, and she immediately cried out unwillingly, "Dad. Sister also went for the audition. Why don't you scold her?" "What?" Li Qin exclaimed in surprise. "She went for the interview too? How is this possible?" Her father defended her. "Your sister has always known her place. She won't step into showbiz. Dad, you never believed me. If you don't believe me, you can ask her. Not only did she participate, she even passed. I saw her sit in a Rolls-Royce today. I don't know what tricks she used. Maybe she hooked up with some big boss." "Pa!" Yun Na's face was slapped to the side. Covering her face, she turned to look at Yun Yecheng in shock. Her heart seemed to have broken into pieces. "Dad, you hit me?" Disappointment was written all over his face. "Nana, how can you say that about Xianxia? She's your sister. How does your sister usually treat you? Since you were young, I've always let you have all the good food and fun things, but what about you now? Saying bad things about her behind her back. What big boss? Xianxia isn't that kind of girl." "Why? Why didn't you scold her when she went for the audition, but when I went for the audition, you scolded me? Am I your biological daughter?" Yun Na screamed at her father, breaking down. Chapter 123. One day, the sun shone brightly in the morning. Yu woke up early and kicked Xianxia out of bed. "Mommy, wake up." Yu shook her awake. "Today is a special day. Get up and exercise to prepare for the cocktail party tonight." Xianxia was shocked. "Baby, how did you know that I'm going to the cocktail party tonight?" Yu looked at her coldly. "I also know that you're Gu Xing's female companion." Xianxia was dumbfounded. "How did you know?" Yu held his forehead helplessly. How could he let his stupid mommy know that he was the one who arranged all of this? No matter what, work hard and earn money to support the family. Yu's future wife will depend on you, mommy. He knew how boring work in the entertainment industry was. On the surface, the stars were shining brightly, but very few people knew how hard it was behind the scenes. Therefore, he had to urge his precious mommy to exercise and improve her physical strength. Sob, "No, you don't get married. Just take care of mommy for the rest of my life." Xianxia hugged Yu tightly. The mother and son changed into casual clothes and ran a few kilometers in the morning. Huanyu Corporation's annual cocktail party was at 7 o'clock in the evening. After yesterday's embarrassment, Yun Na felt uncomfortable all over. When she woke up, there was no one in the house. She felt hungry and wanted to find something to eat in the fridge. However, when she passed by Xianxia's room, she stopped in her tracks and glanced at it silently. She was a little tempted. She was curious and suddenly wanted to know what was in Xianxia's exquisite bag. She heard from her mother that Xianxia didn't come home yesterday with an exquisite luxury bag. She couldn't help but recall what Xiang told her yesterday. Gu Xingza invited her to Huanyu's cocktail party to be his female companion. Yun Na was extremely jealous when she heard that. Gu Xingza was a godlike figure in her heart. How could a bastard like Xianxia be worthy of being Gu Xingza's female companion? The more she thought about it, the more jealous she became. She did not know what kind of vixen this Xianxia was. What right did she have to gain the favor of so many producers and directors? She had worked so hard and sacrificed so much just to get the chance to attend tonight's gala, Yet she had done nothing and was just trying to curry favor with the rich and powerful. At most, she was just a plaything for the rich and powerful for a while. Once they got tired of her, they would throw her away. Get rich? What wishful thinking. Yunna walked to the door and tried to open it. The door wasn't locked. This idiot was still so unguarded. She thought proudly and walked in confidently. Xianxia's room was very clean. The bed sheets were neat, the quilt was folded neatly, and the desk was neatly tidied. With a light sniff, the room was still filled with an elegant fragrance. Chapter 124. Yunna sat in front of the desk and rummaged through the drawers. They were all textbooks, notes, pens, erasers, and a framed photo of her with her father. She flipped through them again. They were all extracurricular exercise books and exercise books. Just looking at them gave her a headache. She muttered softly, "Bookworm." After rummaging through them for a long time, she did not see anything good. Turning around, Yunna wandered to her shabby wardrobe again. She opened the wardrobe and saw old clothes that had been washed white. Until she saw the exquisite handbag. Armani, it was actually Armani. She flipped it out and saw that it was an exquisite and luxurious gown. Oh my God, this was Armani's latest product released this spring. Yunna often shopped in shopping malls, so she knew some of the expensive brands. She liked to dress up, but those clothes were too expensive. Her mother did not allow her to buy them because she felt that it was too extravagant. However, looking at Xianxia's gown, who gave it to her? Yunna had seen this gown at a fashion show on TV before. She liked it very much. However, the price tag of 100,000 yuan shocked her. She did not expect Xianxia to have this gown. An unknown jealousy was slowly twisting in her heart. But why was she treated so well? Why was she chosen by so many directors and given such a beautiful and expensive gown? She was clearly such a lowly B*starred, but she was treated so well by her father when she came back. One had to know that ever since she was young, her father had never doted on her like he did on Xianxia. This B*starred had snatched away the love that originally belonged to her. As Yunna thought of this, she suddenly felt indignant. She took out the gown and changed in front of the mirror. Looking at the beautiful gown in the mirror, Yunna curled her lips in satisfaction. She twirled a few times happily, and her heart was overjoyed. Xianxia did not deserve such a good gown at all. Only she deserved to have it. Xianxia was a lowly Cinderella, and she was the princess. She was worried that she did not have a decent gown for tonight's cocktail party. Yunna folded the clothes neatly. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught sight of an exquisite little box. A brocade box that seemed to be jewelry was quietly placed in the corner of the wardrobe. Out of curiosity, she reached out to take the box and carefully opened it. A magnificent and faint blue light flashed before her eyes. She often paid attention to jewelry magazines. This was the Vicomte from Van Cleef & Arpels' Secret Garden series. It was one of a kind in the world. Yunna sucked in a breath of cold air in shock. In the depths of her pupils, the word Vicomte lay quietly in the brocade box, emitting a bright and dazzling brilliance. So beautiful! So beautiful! It looked like a sapphire necklace, giving people a cold and elegant feeling. The necklace was actually made of countless small diamonds connected together. Such a necklace must be worth a lot of money. How could Xianxia have such expensive jewelry? Such a beautiful necklace for her? What a pity! Yunna's eyes flashed with jealousy. Why did it have to be her? Why did she have to be the one to get such a beautiful necklace? How could she be so lucky? Chapter 125. She knew that she couldn't take it away. Xianxia would find out about this necklace sooner or later. However, as she gazed at the dazzling sapphire, Yunna took a deep breath of cold air. After hesitating for a long time, she gritted her teeth hatefully and gripped the box tightly. She casually tidied up the wardrobe, returned to her previous appearance, and rushed out of the door. Yunna was still nervous and uneasy when she entered her bedroom. She felt a little guilty, and her heart was beating like thunder. She locked the necklace in the wardrobe and only then did she calm down. She comforted herself in her heart. Anyway, Xianxia wasn't wearing it. It was a pity, so she might as well give it to her. Even if she saw this necklace in the future, there were so many similar necklaces in the world. What reason could Xianxia have to say that she stole her necklace? Anyway, it was her necklace. She could just insist on it. She could just say that she bought the exact same necklace. Anyway, she just liked this necklace. She would dress up and attend the cocktail party tonight. She would definitely amaze everyone. Then, she wouldn't have to care about Xianxia's attitude anymore. She must succeed. However, Yun-Na still felt unusually guilty because she had done something wrong. She was afraid that Xianxia would find out when she came back. She hurriedly took her clothes and necklace, called Healing Xiang, and calmly left the house. Xianxia returned home from her morning exercise. She planned to tidy up and go to the cocktail party. However, when she returned to her room, she found that it was a mess. The gown and necklace she had prepared were all gone. She panicked for a moment. Yu couldn't help but be shocked. He even suspected that a thief had broken into the house. However, he only understood when he saw the earrings that Yun-Na had unintentionally left on the floor. His eyes couldn't help but turn cold. There was no lock in the room. He originally thought that Yun-Na would learn from her mistake and wouldn't dare to go against his mother. Who knew that he would still be so bold? The phone screen suddenly lit up. Xianxia saw that it was an unfamiliar number. She hesitated for a moment before answering the call. The phone screen suddenly lit up. She saw that it was an unfamiliar number. She hesitated for a moment before answering the call. Hello. Xianxia, are you home? Gu Xing's gentle voice came from the other end of the phone. I'm at home. Gu Xingzi said, Do you live in Pingyan district? I'll be right there. However, something happened. Xianxia rubbed her forehead with a headache. She looked back at her room and sighed helplessly. I'm really sorry. I might not be able to attend tonight's party. What happened? For some reason, even Gu Xingzi did not notice the tension in his words. Today, he was in a good mood. He was even looking forward to tonight's banquet. Now that he heard that Xianxia was not going to the banquet, he felt an inexplicable sense of loss. What happened? Xianxia replied, My gown. I don't know where it went, and the necklace you borrowed, lost? I'm not sure. When I got home, my room was in a mess. I was careless and forgot to lock the door. Gu Xingzi heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that. Oh, I thought it was something serious. His manager, Qin Zhou, who was eavesdropping on the conversation, couldn't help but cry out in frustration. Chapter 126. Oh, my little ancestor. That secret garden necklace is the treasure of Empress. Great-grandmother, how could you lose it? This necklace had a long history. He had mustered up his courage to borrow it from the director behind the CEO's back. If the boss were to find out, he would be in deep trouble. Forget it. Let her come over first. It's still early. It's not too late to pick out another gown from Empress. Qin Zhou made a decision at the side. Gu Xingzi's car was parked at the entrance of Pingyan district. The extended, luxurious Bentley attracted the attention of the neighbors in the neighborhood. In a slum like this, these commoners had never seen such a luxurious car before. For a moment, they crowded around the car and pointed at it with envy in their eyes. Xianxia hurriedly got into the car and drove off. The neighbors couldn't help but start whispering to each other as they looked at the back of the car. Isn't that the child from the Yun family? She's called Xianxia. I heard that she's Yun Yeqing's illegitimate daughter. Illegitimate daughter? Why did I hear that she's the child of Yun Yeqing and his ex-wife? Who knows if she's Yun Yeqing's biological daughter? How does she resemble Yun Yeqing? Sigh, that old Yun has been cuckolded for who knows how many years. He's even raising a bastard child for someone else. The Bentley sped all the way to the busiest shopping mall in the capital. Empress was a luxury fashion brand favored by the capital's wealthy socialites and movie queens. The interior of the store was luxuriously decorated. From the top-notch handmade gowns from Milan Fashion Week to a series of luxury brands from Italy, Empress was the capital's most eye-catching fashion icon. Therefore, not just anyone could step into this place. Even a third-rate celebrity could not cross such a high threshold. Therefore, when Qin Zhou solemnly handed Xianxia over to the image director, Alan, this woman who had always served the celebrities and socialites, had a dazed look on her face. Manager Qin, what's going on? Alan, this is Xingzi's female companion. Qin Zhou smiled, the meaning in his eyes self-evident. With Qin Zhou's explanation, Alan naturally understood. However, she was very puzzled. With Gu Xingzi's status, why would he let such an unknown girl be his female companion? As the chief image director, she often went in and out of the upper class. At this level, she knew the background of all the noble ladies in the capital. However, she was a little confused as to the name of this little girl. No matter what, since she was Gu Xingzi's female companion, she naturally had to put in some effort. Okay, leave it to me. As Alan spoke, he turned to look at Xianxia gently and said with a smile, Miss Yun, please follow me. Qin Zhou suddenly saw a closed VIP room and looked around curiously. Alan, do you have any guests? As soon as he finished speaking, he saw the door of the VIP room open from the inside. A man in a neat suit walked out of the room. Gu Xingzi heard the commotion and subconsciously turned his head to take a look, but his body suddenly froze at that moment. In the next moment, Gu Xingzi's handsome face froze. Chapter 127. Mr. Xiao? Why are you here? Qin Zhou looked a little surprised. Xiao Dong turned his head and nodded at Qin Zhou with a fake smile. Then, a beautiful and luxurious figure walked out of the room. At that moment, the huge dressing room seemed to have become luxurious and magnificent. Han Yuyan was wearing a gorgeous long gown. Her makeup was exquisite and delicate. Her eyes were bright and beautiful. It was as if they could steal people's souls. Yun Shirshir swept her gaze over as well, and her breath caught in her throat. So beautiful, she didn't pay much attention to the entertainment industry, so she didn't recognize the beautiful woman in front of her. She was one of the 4 most popular actresses, Han Yuyan. Han Yuyan was currently the most popular actress in the Star Altar. She was a valuable A-list actress. When she was 16, she debuted with the youth movie, Bamboo Dragonfly. She was called a pure and innocent girl right after her debut. She was sought after by millions of fans and became famous in the film industry. Bamboo Dragonfly was director Lin Fengtian's first film. With this film, Lin Fengtian won the Best Director Award at the 100 Flowers Film Festival and the Golden Badge Awards. At that time, the male lead, Gu Xingzi, was called the National School Hunk because of this film. Han Yuyan was called the National First Love and became the goddess in the hearts of many young men. Since then, Lin Fengtian had also made many newcomers famous. His fame was at its peak. The female lead in his movie was known as Lady Feng. However, no matter how many actresses he made famous, they could not be compared to Han Yuyan's fame. Han Yuyan's position in the domestic film industry was unparalleled. No one could compete with her. At that time, Gu Xingzi and Han Yuyan were called the most compatible couple on the screen. They worked together in a few TV dramas and movies. There was even a rumor that the two fell in love with each other and started dating secretly. However, not long after, Han Yuyan quickly became one of the 4 young masters of the capital. She fell in love with the young master of the Xiao Financial Group. There were rumors in the circle that Han Yuyan came from a poor family and was extremely vain. She was not as pure as she appeared to be. Rumor had it that when Gu Xingzi was going through the pain of losing his mother, Han Yuyan had been by his side the whole time. She had even turned down many movie offers and stayed by Gu Xingzi's side. Rumor had it that Han Yuyan had indeed dated Gu Xingzi for a period of time. However, she had only taken a fancy to Gu Xingzi's resources and background. Their relationship had ended without any results. There were also rumors that Han Yuyan was deeply in love with Gu Xingzi, while Gu Xingzi only treated Han Yuyan as his younger sister. It was only after Han Yuyan had climbed up the ladder that the two of them parted ways. Alan quickly walked over to Han Yuyan and praised her with a smile. Miss Han, you look beautiful in that outfit. You will definitely be the center of attention at tonight's banquet. Han Yuyan was elated when she heard that. However, she pretended to be reserved. She smiled sweetly at Xiao Dong in the mirror and asked, Xiao Dong, what do you think of my outfit? She had just finished her sentence when she didn't hear a reply for a long time. Han Yuyen was slightly annoyed. She immediately looked at Xiao Dong with a reproachful expression. However, she saw that he was staring at Yun Shishir's back as she walked into the fitting room. When their eyes met just now, he inexplicably felt that this girl was surprisingly familiar. Chapter 128. Xiao Dong, what are you looking at? Han Yuyen called out to him unhappily. Nothing. Xiao Dong quickly turned around and looked at her. She was dressed splendidly, but there was no real surprise in his eyes. Yuyen, you look beautiful in this dress. Han Yuyen did not notice the strangeness in his words. She was immersed in his praise and swayed her body proudly in front of the dressing mirror. Qin Zhou looked coldly at the pair of despicable people and snorted at Gu Xingze. His late wife's body is still warm, and he has already changed a few new lovers. It's not that I want to say this, but the young masters of rich families are really pushovers. I'm afraid Meng Xiaolan won't be able to rest in peace. Xiao Dong was originally married, and Han Yuyen was the third party. Their extramarital relationship had been very low-key. Not long ago, Xiao Dong's wife passed away in a car accident, and Han Yuyen finally succeeded. Don't poke your nose into other people's business. Gu Xingze was looking at a gown when his eyes suddenly fixed on a gorgeous red gown. This gown was designed by the internationally renowned designer, Helen Swift. It was elegant red, with a light shoulder gauze and soft silk. It was exquisite, and the curves were perfect. The fluffy hem of the gown extended from the waist down. Beautiful, so beautiful. Gu Xingze had always had high standards for beauty, and his taste in fashion was not bad. This one, Gu Xingze ordered briefly. Alan immediately walked over and took a look, but shook his head tactfully. Xingze, this gown is the treasure of our store. Was he sure he wanted to give this gown to that unknown girl? Wouldn't that be a waste? Moreover, the designer of this gown had said that not all Asian women could do it. She saw that the girl's body was a little thin, and she might not be suitable. Moreover, even if she was suitable, if other socialites saw it, they would definitely make a fuss. After all, this gown had never been worn by anyone before. Many socialites and actresses had wanted it, but none had succeeded. Han Yuyen was also attracted by their conversation. She looked over and blushed slightly when she saw Gu Xingze. No female celebrity in the industry could resist Gu Xingze's charm. It was the same even for Han Yuyen, who was the A-list heavenly queen. She had once loved him deeply, but he was heartless. She had been deeply in love with him for 4 whole years. She elegantly lifted the hem of her dress and walked over. Seeing his deep gaze on the gown, she reminded him softly, Xingze, just now, I also took a fancy to this gown. But the director said that this piece of clothing is the treasure of Empress. It's priceless. Even I was rejected. In other words, which woman was qualified to wear the clothes that even she couldn't wear? Gu Xingze acted as if he didn't see her. He said to Alan, this one. Unlock it. Han Yuyen was annoyed that she had been completely ignored. It wasn't until Xiao Dong coughed softly behind her with a displeased expression that she turned around awkwardly. However, she saw that the man's gaze was slightly cold. Only then did she realize that she had lost her composure. Xingze, this shirt. Gu Xingze didn't listen to her explanation. When a piece of clothing is designed, it has to be complemented by a beautiful person. Alan, don't you believe in my taste? Alan naturally couldn't refuse. He quickly asked his assistant to unlock the display window and ordered someone to take out the gown and send it to Yun Shishir's fitting room. Chapter 129. Qin Zhou's heart was filled with anticipation. He had also taken a liking to the dress and wondered how stunning Yun Shishir would be in it. Yun Shishir quickly changed into the dress and Alan brought her into the dressing room. Xiao Dong initially wanted to leave, but Han Yuyen insisted. She wanted to see how capable this young lady was to be able to bring out the aura of the dress. Makeup, styling, accessories, high heels. It was not easy for a woman to dress up. Xiao Dong and Han Yuyen were already impatient, but Gu Xingze was patiently reading a fashion magazine on the sofa. The door to the dressing room suddenly opened, and Yun Shishir gracefully strode out with her gown in hand, attracting everyone's attention. Amidst Qin Zhou's amazement, Gu Xingze put down the magazine in his hand and saw Alan carefully pushing Xianxia in front of him with a face full of admiration. Xingze, look, are you satisfied? Alan continued to praise her as he spoke. I really didn't expect Miss Yun to be able to bring out the aura of the dress perfectly. Miss Yun is the most elegant lady I've ever seen. If Miss Helen sees her, she'll definitely like her. Gu Xingze looked at Xianxia, and with just one glance, he could not help being attracted to her. He had been in the entertainment industry for many years and had seen countless people. However, at this moment, he couldn't help but marvel at the wonder and beauty of the creator. Beautiful. Extremely beautiful. Xianxia stood with her hands on her waist, looking noble and elegant. The red dress accentuated her exquisite and graceful figure. The soft satin clung tightly to her body, making her look sexy but not revealing. At the same time, it understated the nobility and restraint of the aristocracy. This was a dress that combined the mysterious sexiness of the East with the noble and elegant elements of Europe. It was tailor-made by a top designer and a top designer. This dress was worth a lot. Alan's evaluation was that Xianxia perfectly brought out the value of this dress. Even Gu Xingze couldn't help but be mesmerized. He couldn't look away for a long time. As a result, Xianxia couldn't help but blush as he sized her up. Alan snickered in his heart. Although Second Master Gu usually looked cold and aloof, he was still a man after all. Furthermore, Xianxia was as beautiful as a queen. Any man would find it hard to resist her. Very beautiful. Gu Xingze admired her for a long time and commented from the bottom of his heart. It was a simple word, but it couldn't hide his amazement. Xianxia smiled faintly. She didn't seem to be overly proud of herself because of his comment. She looked at Qin Zhou respectfully and politely. Qin Zhou nodded even more diligently. Sure. Thank you. Xianxia smiled and elegantly turned around to look at herself in the mirror. She completely ignored the burning gaze from the side. Xiao Dong didn't expect that there would be a woman who was so beautiful. At this moment, all his attention was on her. The dress was beautiful, but what was even more beautiful was Xianxia's noble and restrained aura. Any man would be mesmerized by her. And he was no exception. Han Yuyen's eyes reddened. A woman's jealousy was very strong. She was like a proud peacock. She was originally proudly spreading her tail, but when she saw her territory being conquered, she couldn't accept it. Chapter 130. She was originally the center of attention, but now, no one in the hall was looking at her. She was like a doll that had lost its love and was mercilessly thrown aside. Han Yuyen tugged at Xiao Dong's sleeve, feeling wronged. Darling, I also want this dress, she muttered softly. Buy it, I want to wear it to the gala today. If I wear this dress, I'll definitely be prettier than this girl from God knows where. For a long time, the man did not respond. Han Yuyen raised her head in dissatisfaction and saw that Xiao Dong was also staring at Xianxia. His eyes were filled with amazement, admiration, and some unknown emotions. She looked even angrier and her tone became unhappy. Xiao Dong. Yes. He came back to his senses and lowered his head to look at her. Han Yuyen did not say anything else this time and only stared coldly at the dress. But Xiao Dong hesitated for a moment. In his heart, he had already decided that no one other than this beautiful girl in front of him could wear this dress. However, looking at Han Yuyen's weak and aggrieved expression, he took a deep breath and walked forward. Director, how much is this dress? I want it. Alan looked a little embarrassed and did not know how to answer for a moment. Gu Xingze had spoken first, so she could not afford to offend him. After all, Miss Yun was indeed stunning in this dress. If she rejected Xiao Dong, then she could not afford to offend him. Gu Xingze only stared at Xianxia's back and did not even look at him as he sneered. Director Xiao, this dress is not something you can afford. Xiao Dong looked angry. Gu Xingze, what do you mean by that? What do I mean? Gu Xingze curled his lips in disdain. I'm telling you clearly that I want this dress. Xiao Dong snorted coldly. Although Gu Xingze was a heavenly king, he was still a piece of trash in the entertainment industry. To put it bluntly, What was the difference between him and an actor in ancient times? He turned around and asked Alan directly, "Name a price for this dress." Qin Zhou's temper flared as he teased, "This gown is priced at 5 million yuan during the fashion week. Mr. Xiao, are you that generous?" Xiao Dong didn't even bat an eyelid. 5 million. I'll take it. Qin Zhou raised a finger. Our Xianxia is offering 10 million. We'll take it. He was furious and blurted out, "I'll pay 20 million. As expected of Chairman Xiao. Generous, so generous. Qin Zhou smirked. But Xianxia has taken a liking to this gown. It won't be a problem for him to fork out 30 million yuan. 50 million? Xiao Dong slammed the table. Qin Zhou was speechless. Han Yuyen, who was standing at the side, saw the surprise on everyone's face and laughed secretly. The man she had hooked up with was the future owner of the Xiao enterprise. He was rich and powerful. Even though Gu Xianxia had been in the entertainment industry for 10 years, he was still just a celebrity. How could he compare with Xiao Dong? Alan's face was also a little embarrassed. He only said faintly, "I'm very sorry, Mr. Xiao. Since young Master Gu has taken a fancy to this gown, he definitely won't let anyone else have it." Master Gu? What did that mean? But he's just a small celebrity. Qin Zhou frowned slightly and retorted mercilessly, "Mr. Xiao, please be more respectful with your words. Our Xianxia isn't someone a small business supported by a woman can afford to offend." The Xiao enterprise wasn't as powerful as it was now. Xiao Dong was a man of striking appearance. Under his father's arrangement, he married the daughter of the wealthy Meng family. With the support of the Meng family, the Xiao enterprise was established today. Xiao Dong was furious. How dare a small manager look down on him and insult a company with hundreds of millions of assets as a small business? Then he suddenly realized something. Young Master Gu? Why did Alan address Gu Xianxia as Young Master Gu? Chapter 131. Did he mean that he was a nouveau riche and Gu Xianxia was a real aristocrat? Qin Zhou was Huanyu Entertainment's ace manager. His ability to spout nonsense was top-notch. It was as if his mouth had been poisoned and every word he said was a gem. Gu Xianxia was still a pure young man when he was with him. Now, under his influence, he had become a black-bellied person. Xiao Dong was so angry that he almost had internal bleeding. However, what he said was the truth and he could not refute it. Xianxia stood in front of the dressing mirror. The smile on her face froze for a moment. The atmosphere was too awkward. Gu Xianxia looked at him coldly. "You don't deserve to fight with me." Xiao Dong was furious. Just as he was about to speak, a sudden voice interrupted him. "It's so lively today." A woman's arrogant voice suddenly came from outside the door. Everyone's faces froze and they looked at the door. Mu Wanru was wearing a well-tailored black dress, which made her look elegant and capable. When everyone looked at the man standing behind her, they were all stunned. The man stood behind her. He was wearing a tailored suit. His hands were in his pockets. His tall and slender figure was domineering. He looked like an elite of the empire. He looked very young. To others, he looked to be around 25 years old. However, he had a mature temperament. This kind of maturity was not a simple appearance. It was a steadiness that came from the inside out. He looked like a king who could pass judgment on the world. He was calm and unruffled. Especially that pair of deep and charming eyes that were hidden under the light. Paired with that angular face, just a glance was enough to make one's soul tremble. Such a man stood under the magnificent wall lamp. He was arrogant and oppressive. Even Gu Xianxia's aura was suppressed by him. Everyone had different expressions. Especially Xianxia. Her face, which was originally exquisitely made up, turned pale. She looked gloomy as she hid behind Gu Xianxia. The man saw her immediately. A strange look flashed across his eyes. However, it quickly disappeared. Beside him was a boy in a small suit. His hair was neatly combed, but his handsome face was cold and unruly. It was him, Xiaoichen. Xiaoxia's gaze fell on the child without blinking, and her lips began to tremble. She bit down hard on her lips and suddenly met Xiaoichen's gaze. In a moment of confusion, she turned her face away from him. Xiao Yichen felt increasingly strange. This woman is really strange. Why did she look so unnatural when she saw him? She seemed to be avoiding him? Everyone had different expressions when they saw little Munchkin. Mu Yichen was the little crown prince of the Mu group. However, Mu Yaja was very protective of him. Even the experienced paparazzi could not catch Mu Yichen's trace. No one had ever seen Xiao Yichen's face in person. However, there were still rumors in the circle that Xiao Yichen was not the biological son of Mu Wanru and Mu Yaja. Mu Wanru had been diagnosed with congenital infertility. She had sought treatment everywhere and even tried IVF, but to no avail. The doctor said that she had lost the chance to be a mother in this lifetime. If she blindly tried IVF, her body would collapse due to the pain. Mu Wanru was heartbroken and had no choice but to accept reality. Xiao Yichen's biological mother was someone else. Even though this matter was kept under wraps, there were still insiders who leaked the news. Mu Wanru was furious because of this. Chapter 132. When Qin Zhou and the rest saw little Munchkin, they were surprised. For the past 6 years, young Master Mu had kept him well protected and never allowed him to be exposed to the media. Why was he wearing a British-style Armani suit? Was he planning to let the young heir show his face at the cocktail party? What surprised Qin Zhou even more was that, at first glance, he found the boy's facial features to be very familiar, as if he had seen them somewhere before. Qin Zhou snapped out of his daze and turned to look at Xianxia in surprise. However, she lowered her head and bit her lip. She looked very helpless. Her brows were tightly knitted and she hid herself behind Xianxia. Her left hand hugged her right arm in a defensive posture. If one were to look at her and Xiao Yichen separately, it would be difficult to make the connection. However, now that the two of them were facing each other, it was easy to make a comparison. If Mu Wanru wasn't Xiao Yichen's biological mother, Qin Zhou might have doubted it. However, now that Xiao Yichen was standing in front of him, it was a stark contrast. Although blood ties were mysterious, they couldn't fool anyone. Heredity was an even more mysterious thing. When Xiao Yichen and Mu Wanru stood together, they didn't look like mother and son. However, when he stood together with Xianxia, they looked like biological children. Qin Zhou's eyes darted back and forth between Xianxia and little Yichen. His gaze was somewhat secretive. Xianxia sensed Qin Zhou's scrutinizing gaze on Xianxia and Xiao Yichen. He shot him a warning look. Qin Zhou obviously received his warning signal and pursed his lips. He didn't know, but Xianxia couldn't calm down for a long time. Like everyone else, he had never seen the young master of the Mu family. This was the first time they were meeting. Unlike everyone else, he had seen the child beside Xianxia. He looked very similar to the young master of the Mu family. It was as if they were cast from the same mold. No one would believe that they weren't biological brothers. He was more shocked and confused than anyone else. The situation suddenly froze. The atmosphere was so quiet that it was as if it had been frozen. Alan was the first to react. He greeted the man respectfully, "Chairman Mu." "Chairman Mu." Xiao Dong also came back to his senses. He restrained his anger and greeted Mu Yaja respectfully, "Chairman Mu, how have you been?" Unlike his earlier arrogance toward Xianxia, Xiao Dong's attitude took a 360-degree turn this time. His bearing was dignified and his face was respectful. Although Xianxia was famous, he was a celebrity. Mu Yaja was. The Mu's consortium was a big business. Even a small subsidiary company was far more powerful than the Xiaos. He could ignore Xianxia. Mu Yaja, however, could not. Han Yuyen had never seen Mu Yaja before. The heir of the Mu group had always been mysterious and unpredictable. News about the Mu family had always been groundless. However, she also knew how to act according to the situation. Seeing that even the arrogant Xiao Dong was respectful to this man, she immediately put on an elegant demeanor. She put on a perfect smile and looked at Mu Yaja charmingly. Xiao Dong saw that Mu Yaja did not respond. He took a step forward and extended his right hand. "Chairman Mu, do you still remember me?" "Chairman Mu." Could it be the rumored most mysterious wealthy family in the capital, the Mu family? Han Yuyen listened on the side and cursed in her heart. Who else could make the arrogant Xiao Dong put on a humble front to please a noble and respectfully address him as young Master Mu, except for the Mu family in the capital? Mu Yazhi nodded and looked at him. Compared to Xiao Dong's flattering face, he still had a cold expression on his face. You are. Xiao Dong's face froze. A nervous smile appeared on his face. Chairman Mu, have you forgotten? We met during the acquisition of Meng's enterprise. I've forgotten. Mu Yazhi clearly did not have the patience to listen to his explanation as he brushed past him. Xiao Dong did not have time to withdraw his hand and Han Yuan was still smiling elegantly. The scene was extremely awkward. Qin Zhou could not help but snort. He muttered, "You think too highly of yourself. You're just a nouveau riche. How dare you try to climb up the social ladder of a wealthy family?" His voice was very low, as if he was talking to himself, but he deliberately said it for Xiao Dong to hear. Xiao Dong's face turned green, and Han Yuyan's face was not any better. She was so embarrassed that her face turned red. Xiao Dong had put on an extremely respectful attitude, but he had been completely ignored. Xiao Dong was also very angry. What an arrogant man. Mu Yazhi walked to Gu Xingzi. There was a flaw in his cold expression. Two men. One was mature and arrogant. The other was gentle. One was extremely handsome. The other was elegant and handsome. However, Mu Yazhi was taller than Gu Xingzi. Therefore, it was inevitable that he looked down on him. In comparison, Gu Xingzi's aura was slightly weaker. Mu Yazhi's lips curled into a contemptuous and arrogant smile. The nonchalant smile on his face did not reach his eyes. So beautiful. He turned to look at Xianxia, who was behind Gu Xingzi. She was dressed to the nines. His eyes were filled with surprise. He had seen this woman before. Her beauty was like a lotus flower in clear water. Her temperament was elegant and otherworldly. However, now, she looked noble and elegant in the gorgeous gown. The red and coquettish gown accentuated her graceful figure. The long gown was like a blooming rose. It was sexy and charming. At this moment, she looked like a beautiful aristocrat. Mu Yazhi's lips curled into a smile as he added, "This gown." Whether a gown was beautiful or not depended on the person wearing it. However, Xianxia was a little afraid of this powerful man. She could not help but take a few steps back toward Gu Xingzi. Her small, jade-like hand could not help but grip the corner of Gu Xingzi's shirt. Mu Yazhi noticed this small movement. This proud and arrogant man was slightly displeased at this moment. Xiao Yichen stood aside and blinked. He felt that this woman was a little strange. She looked so timid, just like a little deer. However, Xiao Yichen felt that this woman was really beautiful from the bottom of his heart. She was dressed in a luxurious red gown. It was especially elegant and noble. She was beautiful, but at the same time, she gave him a strange feeling. He felt like he had seen this woman somewhere before. Faintly, some fragmented dreams appeared in his mind. He could not remember them at the moment, but he felt that this woman was so familiar. So familiar, it was as if there was some kind of deep bond between the two of them. This feeling was indescribable, but it felt very close. When he saw her for the first time, she did not feel unfamiliar. She even gave him an inexplicable warmth. This kind of warmth was too unfamiliar, but it was fascinating. He had never felt it even from his mother. Xiao Yichen tilted his head. His mind was a little messy. His dearest mommy was standing right next to him, but he felt so distant. An unfamiliar woman was standing in front of him, but he could feel her gentleness. Xiao Yichen pursed his lips and shook his head. Don't let your imagination run wild. Mu Wanru looked at Xianxia and saw the gown that was so beautiful that it was difficult to look at it directly. She felt even more dazzled. Xianxia, who was standing in front of Mu Yazhi, looked like a fairy queen. She was luxurious and elegant, but she was just a commoner. How could she have the right to step in here? Empress was the fashion symbol of the aristocratic circle. How could a commoner be so ignorant as to invade her territory? Furthermore, she was in such a glamorous position. Wasn't this a provocation to her? Alan! Mu Wanru shouted in a low voice. Alan immediately smiled respectfully and said, "Yes, Miss Mu." Since when did Empress welcome a lowly commoner like her? Mu Wanru pointed at Xianxia arrogantly. Her voice was cold as if she was driving away a lowly beggar. Alan's face immediately looked a little awkward, but he cursed in his heart. Io, if you're jealous, you can just say it directly. How did Miss Yun provoke you? Isn't she just prettier than you and more elegant than you? Miss Mu, you really don't choose your words carefully when you're jealous. Miss Mu, you've misunderstood. Miss Yun was invited by Xianxia. Oh. Mu Wanru laughed arrogantly. Xianxia, since when did you have such low standards to invite such a poor commoner to a place like this? Qin Zhou's face immediately turned cold. Miss Mu, please tone it down. Show some respect. People don't live too well. Since when is there a difference between nobles and commoners? There's no sign at the entrance of Empress that says commoners are not allowed in. As he said that, he pretended to cry. Miss Mu, the commoner you're talking about, are you referring to me? Mu Wanru's face turned pale. She endured it and said, I'm not talking about you. Then, is it our Xianxia? Qin Zhou looked at her pitifully. He was just short of using a handkerchief to pretend to be innocent. No, I'm talking about her. Mu Wanru secretly gritted her teeth and pointed at Xianxia. Aya, how did our Xianxia become a commoner? She's Xianxia's date tonight. I brought her here to try on this gown. Xianxia's date? Gu Xing's date? Mu Wanru was so shocked that her expression changed. Even Han Yuyen was shocked. Gu Xing's date? What did that mean? It meant absolute exposure and headlines. Just based on Gu Xing's popularity, he could dominate the headlines of many entertainment pages. Why? What did this woman have? Back then, when Huanyu promoted Han Yuyen, the company's higher-ups repeatedly pressured Gu Xingzi to walk the red carpet with Han Yuyen, but he ignored them all. What did this woman have? Han Yuyen's eyes turned red with jealousy. Mu Yaji's gaze turned cold. Gu Xing's date? Would she be attending Huanyu's annual cocktail party tonight? This woman was dressed up for another man. Chapter 133. Mu Yaji lifted his arrogant chin slightly and looked at Xianxia with a deep and cold gaze. An inexplicable sense of displeasure grew in his heart. He lifted his chin, especially when he saw Xianxia hiding behind Gu Xingzi like a frightened cat. His thin lips curved into a cold smile. She was so wary of him, yet she was so close to another man. The great President Mu naturally felt uncomfortable. Hence, he looked at her deeply and turned his face away. He turned around and sat down on the sofa leisurely. The atmosphere was extremely strange. Xiao Yichen stood at the side, his handsome little face faintly showing a trace of displeasure. He didn't know why, but when he found out that Xianxia was Gu Xing's female companion, he obviously felt unhappy. He actually felt that this woman and daddy looked very compatible when they stood together. Xiao Yichen was stunned by his own thoughts. Why would he have such a thought? It was too inexplicable. But this woman was very strange. He felt an inexplicable sense of closeness to her. But the little munchkin was a little confused. They were indeed father and son. Even their awkwardness was similar. Mu Wanru looked around arrogantly. When her gaze landed on Xianxia, she suddenly felt a stab in her eyes. That luxurious gown was so glaring in her eyes. She then shifted her gaze and elegantly approached Xianxia. With a condescending look, she squeezed out a mocking smile from the corner of her lips. Ha, Xingzi, when did your standards become so low? You actually found such a poor and lowly person to be your female companion? Mu Wanru glanced at Xianxia with a faint smile. Her eyes were full of contempt, as if she was a high and mighty queen and Xianxia was like a lowly female slave. The two of them had similar figures, but Mu Wanru was wearing a pair of 8-centimeter-high stilettos, which made her taller than Xianxia. She raised her chin arrogantly. Xianxia looked at her calmly. She wasn't shocked or angry, but her face was calm without a ripple of emotion. This is the work of Master Helen, who won the Fashion Week's Gold Award. Mu Wanru raised her chin high. Who allowed you to wear it? Upon hearing this, Alan shrank his shoulders and immediately said respectfully, Young Madam Mu, I was the one who put it on her. You? Mu Wanru looked angry. Do you know how expensive this dress is? Who allowed you to put it on her? It was me, Gu Xingzi said calmly. I think this dress is very beautiful. It will definitely suit Xianxia very well. Xianxia? Why did he call her so intimately? Mu Yaja's eyes became colder. The unhappiness in his heart was getting worse and worse. Seeing Gu Xingzi speak, Mu Wanru softened her tone. Xingzi, this dress is Master Helen's work. It's very expensive. How could you bear to? She's worth it. Besides, Xianxia does look beautiful in it. Gu Xingzi lowered his head to look at her and reached out to tidy Yun Xianxia's slightly messy hair. This seemingly intimate action couldn't help but hurt some people's eyes. Especially Mu Yaja, the unhappiness in his eyes became more and more bottomless. Damn it, he minded. He actually minded other people touching her. He was such an eyesore. This feeling was so damn unpleasant. Mu Wanru didn't notice Mu Yaja's unfathomable expression at all. She said, Xingzi, tonight is Huanyu Entertainment's annual cocktail party. There will be many distinguished guests and entertainment media present. Aren't you afraid of being mocked for bringing such an unknown female companion? When Qin Zhou heard her say such harsh words, his brows furrowed deeply and he was filled with displeasure. Alan also said softly, I think Miss Yun looks very good in it. Mu Wanru frowned slightly, pursed her red lips, and shot a sharp look at Alan. He was so frightened that he shut his mouth on the spot and didn't dare to say another word. When Han Yuyan heard this, her heart was filled with anger. She had long disliked this girl who had neither fame nor family background. She detested her to the core. Mu Wanru's sarcasm seemed to have helped her vent her anger and supported her. She was happy and mocked her. What young Madame Mu said makes sense. A poor person will always be a poor person. No matter what she wears, she still looks poor. A sparrow will always be a sparrow. She still wants to fly up and become a phoenix? She's dreaming. Mu Wanru tidied her clothes and elegantly crossed her arms. Han Yuyan's young Madame Mu was very pleasing to her ears. Han Yuyan's mouth was as sweet as honey. As long as there was a chance for her to climb up the social ladder, she would never let it go. As she spoke, she held Xiaodong's arm and sneered, her eyes full of disdain. I say, don't embarrass yourself here. Go back to your slum. Qin Zhou raised his eyebrows and sneered. You said that our Xianxia is poor. Heavenly Queen Han, are you from a noble family? Han Yuyan was speechless. Of course she was not. On the contrary, her family was poor since she was young. Her family of 5 was squeezed into a small house. She was the one who was born in the slum. It was because she had tasted the taste of poverty since she was young that she developed a vain personality. When she graduated from junior high school, she entered an art school early and became an art student. She did not have the talent for learning and did not have the conditions to do so. It was only until she auditioned for a movie before she graduated that she was lucky enough to get that role that she successfully made her debut. In order to make her debut, she did not hesitate to use any means and suffered some hardships. Now that she was famous, the hardships were over. However, there were still many media outlets that made irresponsible remarks about her being uncultured. This had always been her sore spot. Qin Zhou saw her embarrassed expression and sneered. Our Xianxia is still a university student. No matter what, she's still a top student. Moreover, our Xianxia is also highly regarded by Director Lin. Director Lin? Han Yuyan's expression changed. Director Lin? Which Director Lin? You're really forgetful. You don't even remember the teacher who made you famous? Qin Zhou said indifferently. Lin Fengteng. How could she forget? He was one of the most talented directors in the Chinese film industry. The 2 movies he directed had been the box office champion for 3 years in a row. Wasn't he preparing to film a movie based on a famous youth novel? Could it be that she was the female lead? Mu Wanru's eyes were filled with surprise. On the sofa, Mu Yaja's handsome face also showed a hint of surprise. Han Yuyan suddenly sneered. How is that possible? Why would Director Lin choose her as the female lead? What right does she have? She was able to get the role of the female lead in Bamboo Dragonfly because she hooked up with the biggest investor of the movie. Because of this, Lin Fengtun was very dissatisfied with her and did not treat her well. What right did Xianxia have? Could it be that she also used the unspoken rules? What right does she have? When Xianxia heard this, he smiled. As if there was no one around, he stretched out his arm and pulled Xianxia to his side. His gaze was full of tenderness as he looked at her. Although some people come from ordinary backgrounds, their aura is elegant and refined. Although Xianxia is not famous, she is the most beautiful girl I have ever seen. Mu Wanru looked at Xianxia and suddenly understood. Xianxia wanted to use his popularity to get more media exposure for Xianxia. He wanted to pave the way for her. It was obvious that Xianxia was very satisfied with this female lead that Lin Fengtian had chosen. Otherwise, given Xianxia's proud and aloof character, he would not have used his high popularity to promote her. This Xianxia, what did she do? Why was she always favored by the heavens? I don't care who chose her. She is not welcome here. Mu Wanru's eyes were full of viciousness. Her voice was distorted because of jealousy. Take it off and get out. When Xianxia heard this, her face showed a trace of embarrassment. How could this woman humiliate her like this? It was too much. She smiled and asked, "Why should I?" Would she take it off just because she asked her to? Xianxia, was not someone who would be bullied. Mu Wanru laughed arrogantly, as if she had heard the funniest joke in the world. You are asking me why? When Alan heard this, he couldn't help but remind her, Miss Yun, I am very sorry. Empress is a business that the Mu Corporation has invested in. Xiaxia's eyes widened in shock. No wonder Mu Wanru was so arrogant. She was the female owner of Empress. Xianxia smiled and said, I will buy this gown. Mu Wanru sneered. Not for sale. 100 million, Xianxia said without batting an eyelid. As soon as he finished speaking, even Qin Zhou, who was standing beside him, was shocked. Oh my God. Was he crazy? 100 million, what kind of concept was that? Even if he liked Xianxia very much, it was only 100 million for a gown. Was it worth it? Xianxia was deeply touched. She knew in her heart that this gown was not worth 100 million. Xianxia was only protecting her. If she really took off the gown and was chased out, that would be the greatest humiliation to her. And Xianxia was only using 100 million to protect her dignity. Was it worth it? Why was he so gentle with her? So careful and protective? Xianxia, are you crazy? Han Yuyan could not stand it anymore and said, This gown is not worth 100 million. I like it, he said calmly and concisely. He did not care about Han Yuyan's unwillingness at all. 100 million, I will buy it. Xianxia looked at Mu Wanru calmly and announced. Mu Wanru was furious and looked at him in disbelief. Mu Yaja's cold voice sounded from the side. Not for sale. Hearing this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. He was not selling it even for 100 million. But Qin Zhou was also angry. Chairman Mu, 100 million is a sky-high price. Mu Yaja leaned on the sofa lazily and elegantly. He was as calm as an emperor in ancient times. His domineering aura spread to every corner. Chapter 134. Mu Yaja leaned on the sofa lazily and elegantly. He was as calm as an emperor in ancient times. His domineering aura spread to every corner of the room. Do you think I lack this 100 million? Everyone's expression froze. After a moment of shock, they understood that Mu Yaja, as the heir of the huge Dishing Financial Group, naturally had the right to decide the life and death of the group. Dishing Financial Group was not only important in the capital, but also in the entire Asian financial industry. Mu Yaja did not lack 100 million. Han Yuyan was even more shocked. She only knew that the Mu family was one of the wealthiest families in the capital, but she did not know that the Mu family was so powerful. Compared to them, Xiao Dong, who was standing beside her with a serious expression, could not even withstand a single blow. Han Yuyan bit her lip hard and started to hate herself for being so short-sighted. She could not help but feel jealous of Mu Wanru. Compared to the Mu family, the Xiao family was a joke. It was nothing. Mu Yaja's overbearing provocation stunned Xianxia and Xianxia. Even Qin Zhou, who had always been sharp-tongued, sighed helplessly. He knew Muyaja too well. Obviously, he was going to challenge Gu Xingzi to the end. Gu Xingzi's face darkened. His eyes, which were usually as cold as water, had a trace of bone-chilling sharpness. He frowned and turned his face away. The two men stared at each other across the room. Instantly, the air was filled with tension. President Mu, this gown is in the shop, but you're not selling it. What is the meaning of this? Muyaja curled his lips elegantly and stood up slowly. As he moved, the air in the exhibition hall was filled with his aura. For a moment, the air became even more tense. It's my right to decide whether to sell it or not. No one else has the right to interfere. Gu Xingzi's eyes were cold and his muscles were stiff. He was about to speak when Xianxia grabbed his sleeve. Startled, he lowered his head and saw her smiling brightly. She said plainly, "Xingzi, thank you for your kindness. However, I'd better take off this dress." "You don't have to be afraid. This dress suits you very well. I still like the white evening gown that you and Qinzhou picked out. I like it very much." Xianxia shook her head and interrupted him. Han Yuyan heard this and sneered. This empress was the Mu family's business, so the ownership of this dress was naturally decided by Chairman Mu. Chairman Mu loves young Mistress Mu dearly. Why would he give her up? These words were truly ear-piercing. For some reason, Xianxia felt especially heartbroken when she heard this. This Mu Wanru was his fiancée. Naturally, he would not hand over the most beautiful evening gown to someone else. But why did her heart feel stuffy? Xianxia suddenly laughed mockingly. What was there to question? If he did not love his fiancée, was he going to love her? She was no one to him. However, Xianxia did not care much about it in her heart. Although this gown was luxurious, if she wore it tonight, she would definitely steal the limelight and attract everyone's attention. However, she was just a newcomer. She had no background and no works. If she was too ostentatious, she would definitely attract unnecessary trouble. She was not a vain woman. She did not care about what others thought of her. Xianxia smiled and walked to the fitting room. She elegantly lifted the corner of her dress. Her steps were calm and her back was straight. There was no trace of embarrassment or disappointment. She was calm and composed. Instead, it made those who were waiting to see her embarrass herself at the side. Mu Wanru and Han Yuyan's resentment was like a fishbone stuck in their throats. Initially, they thought that Xianxia would run back to the slums like a pathetic Cinderella after being humiliated in such a manner. They also thought that she would be full of schemes to climb up the social ladder. Alas, she did not. Xianxia's calmness and composure set off Han Yuyan and Mu Wanru's viciousness and hypocrisy. Xiao Dong stared at Xianxia's proud back view with infatuation. Her heart was filled with shock. The situation just now was destined to embarrass her. In front of Muyaja, no one present had the right to defend her. Yet, she was able to retreat so calmly, without even a trace of embarrassment. She was different from Mu Wanru. Although Xianxia was not a real aristocrat, some women were like this. The aristocratic temperament and the elegance of royalty seemed to be innate and difficult to replicate. Muyaja looked at her back view. His deep eyes slowly narrowed and a deep meaning flashed across his eyes. He could not see through her. He originally thought that with his humiliation and arrogance, he would appreciate her weakness, helplessness, and panic. However, from the beginning to the end, she was so elegant that he could not see through her. He was unhappy. He was very unhappy. He felt that this woman was not as easy to control as he thought. He admitted that the reason why he humiliated her so brazenly and embarrassed her was because she was hiding behind another man despite her meek appearance. Compared to her beside Gu Xingzi, Xianxia in front of him was like a fully armed cat. She stretched out her sharp claws and fangs, not allowing him to violate her. Perhaps it was because this man hid his desire to conquer very well. He was usually quiet, but in fact, his desire to control was amazing. This was his nature and instinct. The blood of an emperor flowed in his bones, and he would not allow anyone to disobey him. However, he met a woman who was equally stubborn to the bone. Muyaja pursed his thin lips into a line and his eyes were unreadable. Seeing this, Although Alan could not bear to see it, he followed closely behind. With his help, Xianxia changed into the evening gown that Qin Zhou had his eyes on. She changed her hairstyle and matched it with simple but luxurious jewelry. Feeling guilty, Alan was especially attentive when he helped her do her makeup. After changing into a simple and elegant evening gown, the makeup naturally had to be changed as well. After changing the gorgeous makeup on her face to clear crystal makeup, Alan looked at her reflection in the mirror. What he saw was Xianxia's extraordinary face. Her facial features were exquisite and beautiful. Alan was a top stylist, so he did the makeup all by himself. Xianxia stood up and looked at Alan with a smile. She was still as perfect and flawless as ever. Alan was amazed again. A truly beautiful person was born extraordinary and did not need to rely on makeup. Even though Xianxia was only wearing a simple white gown, she was still radiant. When she lifted the hem of her gown and walked out of the changing room, she attracted everyone's attention once again. Xianxia was even more amazed than before. Xiao Yichen, who was sitting in Mu Yaja's arms, was even more amazed. Qin Zhou, who was beside them, was stunned. Han Yuyan, who was beside them, was jealous and amazed. This girl made people jealous. Her beauty and temperament were blessed by the heavens. Why was she so blessed by the heavens? Mu Wanru's expression was even more complicated. Her eyes were filled with viciousness. Xianxia walked towards Xianxia and Qin Zhou and smiled. What do you think? Great. Beautiful, too beautiful. Xianxia, you look good in anything. You're a natural clothes hanger. As he spoke, Qin Zhou looked at Han Yuyan meaningfully. He didn't forget to add, unlike some people, no matter how beautiful the clothes are, they're nothing but a foil to her. You can't compare people to people. His words made Han Yuyan's face turn white. However, she did not say anything in response to Qin Zhou's sarcasm. Although Qin Zhou was a manager, he was the trump card of Huanyu Entertainment. He had countless resources and a strong background. She could not afford to offend him. Xianxia also said, Qin Zhou, you have good taste. This dress is beautiful. Xianxia looks good in anything. Qin Zhou was mesmerized. Xianxia smiled. You're flattering me. Manager Qin, you have good taste. You have such a sweet mouth. I feel good hearing it. Xianxia looked at her. The haze in his heart was instantly swept away. He turned to Alan and said, I'll take this dress. Put it on my tab. Alan nodded and carefully observed Mu Yaja's expression. He did not know why, but it seemed that Chairman Mu was paying special attention to this newcomer. He saw that Mu Yaja's eyes were lowered and he did not even look at her. It was as if he did not care about her at all. Alan pursed his lips. Did he misunderstand? He felt that Chairman Mu was paying special attention to her. Now, he was showing his cold face again. A man's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the ocean. Especially for a man as mysterious as Mu Yaja, no one could guess what he was thinking. He did not even look at Xianxia and Xianxia until they left. Mu Wanru immediately asked Alan to bring the dress that Xianxia had changed out of. She happily walked into the fitting room and could not wait to put it on for her. She did not like this dress at first. Compared to the rose red, she preferred the elegant purple. However, Xianxia looked so stunning in this dress that it attracted his attention. She was naturally unwilling to accept it. Why could she be so dazzling? She had to prove that she would look just as radiant when she wore this dress. She was eager to prove it to everyone. There was no time to delay. Not long after, she pretended to walk out in the dress. She thought that this dress would be even more stunning on her. However, when she walked out with her chin held high and waited for everyone's praise, everyone's eyes dimmed when they looked at her. Even Han Yuyan almost laughed out loud. It was too tacky. This elegant evening gown actually looked a little gaudy on her. Whether the dress was beautiful or not depended on the person wearing it. If the person was ordinary, they would not be able to wear such a luxurious dress. When Xianxia wore it, she was the dress. When Mu Wanru wore it, she became the dress foil. For a moment, the atmosphere was silent. There was an awkward silence. Han Yuyan knew how to judge the situation. She quickly smiled and praised, Young Mistress Mu, you look so beautiful in this dress. Chapter 135. It was just a few words of vulgar praise, but little Yichen could tell at once that there was an unconcealed compliment in them. It sounded like a hypocritical compliment, but in the current situation, it was too awkward. This compliment was extremely awkward in the stifling silence of the scene. There was no comparison or contrast. Perhaps everyone had seen how stunning Xianxia looked in this gown, but when Mu Wanru put it on, it instantly paled in comparison. It was supposed to be an elegant evening gown, but on Mu Wanru, it was indescribably tacky. Xianxia's figure was curvy and exquisite. Her waist was slim, her legs were straight and slender, and she had beautiful shoulders and collarbones. When she put on this evening gown, these advantages were perfectly displayed. However, Mu Wanru's figure was not suitable for it. Her voluptuous upper body was undoubtedly exposed, and it looked extremely tacky. Mu Yaja opened his handsome eyes slightly, and his cold gaze landed on her body. He suddenly felt extremely disgusted. Once again, he recalled how gorgeous Xianxia looked when she wore this evening gown. The contrast was too stark. After a moment of silence, Alan immediately reacted and praised, "Young Madam Mu, you look really beautiful in this gown." It was fine if he didn't praise her, but once he did, Mu Wanru's face completely collapsed. Looking at the awkward and dazed faces of the people around her, Mu Wanru looked unhappy. However, she still forced a smile and said, "Why? Don't I look good in this gown?" Han Yuyen smiled and said, "You look good. It's very beautiful and suits your temperament." Empty praise. She really didn't know what to praise. It was a woman's nature to compete and be jealous. How could Mu Wanru allow Xianxia to steal all the limelight from her? However, Xiao Yichen was still a child, and he didn't know how to pretend to be a snake. He frowned and said, "Mommy, you don't look good in this gown." Han Yuyen's eyebrows twitched. How could this child be so honest and directly expose her? Little Munchkin's next sentence made Mu Wanru vomit blood. "This evening gown looks better on that pretty sister just now. This dress doesn't suit Mommy, let's change to another one." Mu Wanru's face darkened. Han Yuyen smiled and said, "Children's words carry no harm. Young Master Mu, children's words carry no harm. Young Mistress Mu looks really good in this dress." "Humph, you're trying to curry favor with my mommy. Are you trying to embarrass my mommy at the party?" When Xiao Yichen saw that someone was questioning his sense of beauty, he retorted with a displeased expression and accused her of being a bad person. Han Yuyen gritted her teeth in anger. She was afraid that Mu Wanru would believe the child's words and misunderstand her intentions. She quickly said, "Young Mistress Mu, I didn't mean that." Mu Wanru ignored her and walked up to Mu Yaja. She smiled and asked, Do I look good in this?" She stubbornly wanted an answer from him. It didn't matter what other people thought. His affirmation was better than 1,000 words of praise from others. Now that she had lost all her dignity, Mu Yaja only needed to say one word to save her face. If he said that she looked good, who would dare to question him? Mu Yaja's words were no doubt an imperial edict. Who would dare to refute him? Chapter 136. Mu Yaja slowly raised his head and looked at her. There was no surprise or admiration in his eyes, only a trace of impatience and coldness, which made Mu Wanru's heart turn cold. "Take it off." With an extremely cold order, Mu Wanru instantly froze on the spot. "Why? Did I say that you can wear this?" Mu Yaja sneered. Mu Wanru's expression froze and turned ugly. She didn't understand. Usually, Mu Yaja would unconditionally satisfy her requests. She had whatever she wanted. He had always pampered her, and no matter how harsh her requests were, he would easily satisfy them. Why was he suddenly as cold as ice towards her? "But why do you want me to take it off? Am I not comparable to her? That bitch. Take it off. I'll give you 5 minutes to change into another one." Mu Yaja said as he raised the watch on his wrist. He had obviously started to calculate the time. "No, I won't take it off." Mu Wanru's eyes turned red. "I just like this one. I want to wear this to tonight's cocktail party." Mu Yaja's lips curved into a cold arc as he said coldly, "My patience is limited." Mu Wanru was shocked. She had never seen him treat her so coldly. Yun Shirshir, that damn bitch. She must be the reincarnation of a vixen. All the men who saw her acted as if their souls had been taken away. Mu Yaja said coldly, there's still 1 minute. In other words, after this minute, her last shred of decency would be gone. He had always been true to his words. Feeling extremely wronged, Mu Wanru stomped her feet angrily and returned to the fitting room to change into a new gown. The Bentley smoothly drove off the highway and slowly drove towards the venue of the cocktail party. In the car, Yun Shirshir silently lowered her head. The stubbornness and confidence had faded from her body, and her side profile looked a little down and out. Gu Xingzi sat beside her and looked at her leaning against the window with her head lowered. Her thin and small body inevitably made his heart ache. She was a girl who made one's heart ache and could easily arouse a man's desire to protect her. Gu Xingzi thought of the little boy who looked very similar to her in the Empress exhibition hall just now, and some guesses and doubts emerged in his heart. It was rumored that the young madam of the Mu family and the heir of the Mu group were engaged since birth. They were childhood sweethearts. Mu Wanru was Mu Yaja's beloved fiancé. However, this was only on the surface. In fact, Mu Yaja was a man who was apathetic to the core. He had never fallen in love with any woman. Mu Wanru was not little Yichen's biological mother. She had been diagnosed as a mother's Mu. Xiao Yichen's biological mother was someone else. Could it be her? That day, he saw the boy in her arms. Whether it was age or facial features, he was exactly the same as Xiao Yichen. Gu Xingzi smiled slightly. He actually cared a little. However, he had no right to ask. Qin Zhou also kept looking at her. He wanted to say something but hesitated. He wanted to care, but he was in no position to ask. Yun Shirshir raised her head and looked at Gu Xingzi. She sincerely thanked him. Xingzi, thank you so much just now. Thank you for protecting me. What are you thanking me for? Gu Xingzi looked at her in amusement. That gown was really beautiful, but it's really not worth it to exchange for 100 million yuan. Not worth it? Gu Xingzi smiled and said, it's worth it. Yun Shirshir looked at the handsome man in front of her in surprise. His lips were curved into a gentle smile, but his tone was extremely firm. Chapter 137. Shirshir, you deserve the best. It was a short sentence, but it was like a spring breeze. Gu Xingzi looked at her with a gentle smile. Yun Shirshir was flattered. Gu Xingzi, why are you so good to me? I don't know. Gu Xingzi smiled. You're a girl who makes my heart ache. Thank you. Yun Shirshir said sincerely. Tonight was Huanyu Entertainment's 10th anniversary party. Celebrities from film, television, and singing, as well as many well-known directors and investors, as well as international mainstream media reporters, were all present to witness this grand event. Huanyu Entertainment's predecessor was Universal Records, the country's leading gold medal record company. It had made countless popular idol singers famous, and for a time, it looked down on the domestic record industry. Later, when the record industry was in a slump, Universal Records quickly went downhill. After it was acquired by Dishing Financial Group, it was officially renamed Huanyu International Entertainment Agency. It gathered A-list big shots and 4 ace managers, continuing Universal Records' glory years ago. Unknowingly, Huanyu Entertainment had been established for 10 years. Tonight's party would be unprecedented. It was no wonder that those little models and has-been artists were racking their brains to walk the red carpet at this party. If they could seize this opportunity, they would be able to make a beautiful comeback. One must know that many well-known directors and producers were present tonight. What was more precious was that even Dishing Financial Group's CEO would be present. Dishing So. He was the crown prince of the Mu family, the capital's richest family, and the future heir of the Mu group. Mu Yaja had always been mysterious. The news about him was all groundless. The public knew very little about this noble and mysterious crown prince, and he rarely appeared in public. When the socialites and aristocratic daughters in the circle learned about this, they all dressed up meticulously in order to leave a deep impression in front of this honorable CEO and win some attention. So what if he had a fiancé? Wealthy families like the Mu family were divided into the first, second, and third wives. Mu Yaja had 3 wives back then. Mu Yaja's father was the first wife's son, and he was doted on by Grandpa Mu. Therefore, there are also a lot of high-class nobles in this banquet, in order to be able to see the Mu family's young master's elegant demeanor. Even if they can't attract Mu Yaja's attention, if they can climb up the ranks of the Mu family's side branch, it can be considered as climbing up the social ladder. Therefore, as soon as the reporters arrived, they were stunned by the dazzling jewels in the hall. It was too extravagant. It was simply corrupt. In the entire capital, only the Mu family has such influence. In order to participate in this event, Yun Na deliberately gritted her teeth and spent a fortune to rent a luxurious Bentley for 2,000 yuan. The Bentley drove into the venue and stopped at the entrance. Yun Na immediately tidied up her outfit, especially the beautiful jewelry around her neck. She adjusted it to the best angle to ensure that the media could capture it from the first angle. For the sake of gaining exposure, Yun Na could be said to have taken great pains and strived for perfection in everything, and it was all for the sake of attending the grand event in a grand manner. Humph, Yun Shirshir, you don't deserve to attend this kind of cocktail party. You should just stay at home with that bastard child of some unknown man and watch her on the TV. Yun Na cursed viciously in her heart. The chauffeur opened the car door, and Yun Na immediately revealed a flawless smile. She proudly raised her chin, straightened her back, and gently tucked her hair behind her shoulders before gracefully stepping onto the red carpet. Her appearance attracted the attention of many female celebrities. Chapter 138. Van Cleef & Arpels was the most expensive jewelry brand. Among them, the Secret Garden series was the most favored by celebrities. The Vicomte from the Secret Garden series was one of a kind in the world. The moment Yun Na walked on the red carpet, she immediately attracted everyone's attention. When the media saw her, they all raised their cameras and took pictures of her. The other female celebrities couldn't help but talk among themselves. Their eyes were fixed on her. Who is this newcomer? The gown she's wearing is Armani's new spring collection. Oh my God, look at the necklace on her neck. It's from the Secret Garden series. I heard that the gems on it are worth tens of millions. It can't be a fake, right? This Vicomte is out of print. It's only sold in limited quantities worldwide. Ordinary people can't buy it. It must be a fake. This Vicomte can't be bought even if you have the money. I don't know where this unknown newcomer came from. She's even wearing a fake jewelry. Humph, I heard that there was a sugar daddy who wanted to buy this necklace at a sky-high price. The crowd was talking about it. Yun Na couldn't hear what the socialites were talking about. She only felt that she was the center of attention. Many pairs of envious and jealous eyes fell on her. She was very pleased with herself. Yun Na raised her head proudly and puffed out her ample chest. She walked to the entrance but was politely stopped by the concierge at the door. Hello, madam. Please show me your invitation card. Invitation card? Did this cocktail party need an invitation card? Yun Na was a little flustered for a moment, but she quickly calmed down and raised her chin proudly. She sneered in disdain and was so angry that she laughed. What do you mean? You're asking me for an invitation card? Are you suspecting that I came uninvited? I'm sorry, madam. You misunderstood. Entering with an invitation card is one of the procedures of the cocktail party. The concierge had a decent smile on his face, but there was a trace of doubt in his eyes. The entrance checkpoint of the cocktail party was set up very carefully, in order to prevent small models and unknown stars from sneaking into the venue. Some celebrities didn't receive an invitation but still wanted to sneak in. Huan Yu's annual cocktail party had sent out a total of 500 invitations, 100 VIP cards, and 100 seats for the media in the venue. Every guest had to show their identity when they entered the venue. Otherwise, they would be blocked outside the door. No one was an exception. Yun Na looked a little embarrassed and said unhappily, I'm with Director He. Do I need an invitation? And then may I ask which director's female companion you are? Director He Lingxiang. Pucci. Suddenly, a disdainful sneer came from beside him. Yun Na furrowed her brows in embarrassment and turned her head, only to see that the person laughing at her was actually one of the 4 most popular young actresses, Yang Mi tonight. She was wearing an evening gown with golden tassels. It was so long that it reached the ground, making her look slender and elegant. It was simple yet luxurious, especially the diamond necklace around her neck. Coupled with her exquisite makeup, she looked stunning. As someone who stood at the peak of public opinion, Yang Chang naturally knew how to create momentum for himself. As soon as he appeared, he instantly killed countless furlants. However, halfway through the red carpet, the limelight was stolen by this newcomer who came out of nowhere. Yang Mi was naturally unhappy. Chapter 139. Where did this newbie come from? How could she not know the rules? An unknown newbie dressed so luxuriously and dared to steal the limelight from them. She had no sense of propriety at all. This wasn't her home ground. Was she doing this on purpose? Yang Mi didn't have a good impression of her. Yun Na was the typical big-breasted but brainless type. She had stolen the limelight the moment she appeared and offended many actresses. Which director did you come with? Yang Chang slowly walked in front of her and asked arrogantly. Yun Na looked at her and was a little defeated by her aura. This Yang Chang had such a strong aura. His arrogant eyes were so oppressive that even her confidence was suppressed. I'm with Director He. I'm his female companion. Yang Mi was deliberately making things difficult for her. Who asked her to steal her limelight? She didn't know how to restrain herself. Naturally, she wouldn't let her off easily. There are so many directors with the surname He. Not everyone has the right to enter such an event. Tell me your name and see if I know you. Yun Na bit her lip. Why did Yang Mi have to make things difficult for her? What did it have to do with her whose companion she was? However, she knew that Yang Mi was someone with a strong background. In the entertainment industry, every actress who was doing well had a strong backer. She couldn't afford to offend them. Otherwise, as a newbie, she wouldn't dare to offend someone and be blacklisted before she even debuted. Thus, she said respectfully, It's He Lingxiang, Director He. You can't even speak coherently. You're just a nobody who hasn't seen the world. You're delusional to think that you can enter such an event. You're not worthy. Sister Me, she just said that she's He Lingxiang's companion. That Director He. A well-dressed actress beside Yang Mi whispered to her. This actress was called Tang Yu. She had just debuted not long ago and played a supporting role in a period drama starring Yang Mi. She had gained some popularity with the audience and accepted many roles. Recently, she had been very close to Yang Mi. She seemed to be whispering, but it seemed like she was deliberately saying it to someone. Every word was extremely humiliating. Newbies nowadays are so unscrupulous in order to climb up the ranks? What kind of person is He Lingxiang? She has the ability to climb into Director He's bed. What a taste! Yang Chang sneered and said, Isn't that so? Some newbies don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. They think that they can climb up the ranks just by hugging a big thigh. They don't even know how much they are worth. Don't think that the entertainment industry is a place where anyone can step into. That's right. Yun Na was filled with grievances as Yang Jian and Tang Yu made things difficult for her at every turn, yet she didn't dare voice her anger. She could only pinch the corner of her dress and purse her lips as tears welled up in her eyes. Tang Yu continued to add fuel to the fire. Look at her. She's pretending to be wronged. Big sis Me, she seems to be quite scheming. Look at her outfit, she's clearly trying to steal your limelight. She's not worthy. Yang Chang sneered. I think her outfit is fake. Yun Na immediately defended herself. No? Then where did the necklace on your neck come from? Yang Chang obviously didn't believe him. This necklace is worth tens of millions. Can you afford it? How is that possible? It must be fake. She's obviously a commoner. She's so unsophisticated. Some of the invited actresses at the side also surrounded them. Their words of ridicule were extremely vicious. Chapter 140. Thus, Yun Na was at a loss as she was surrounded by them. She braced herself and listened to their endless insults as the grievances in her heart turned upside down. Just you wait. She would remember every debt she owed him today. When she made it big, she would pay them back 100 times, 1,000 times over. Many of the reporters at the side sympathized with her. This newcomer had offended many seniors before even entering the venue. She was really pitiful. However, this was the industry. As a newcomer, you had to know how to keep a low profile. Otherwise, it would be easy to offend people. Therefore, no one stepped forward to help her. Yang Mi had a high status in the industry. Now that her career was at its peak, her 8 years of acting had accumulated a lot of popularity with the audience. No one dared to offend her. What's going on? Why are you all blocking the entrance? A man's low and cool voice came from not far away. Everyone turned around in surprise and saw Li Jiuxian standing behind them. He was wearing a custom-made suit today. It was well-tailored and extraordinarily elegant. His handsome face attracted countless screams when he entered the venue. Li Jiuxian was a popular young actor newly signed by Huanyu Entertainment. He was elegant and handsome. Blessed with a unique appearance, he had already starred in 2 commercial blockbusters and 5 idol dramas in just 2 years after his debut. He was very productive and had a lot of resources in his hands. He was a popular idol promoted by Huanyu Entertainment. Yun Na looked at him, but his gaze fell on her. He saw that she was in a sorry state and felt wronged. As if she was clutching at a life-saving straw, Yun Na pursed her lips and looked at him pitifully. Her pair of beautiful red eyes made people fall in love with her. Li Jiuxian couldn't help but feel pity for her. He looked at Yang Mi and said, "Sister Mi, why aren't you entering the venue?" Li Jiuxian and Yang Mi were brothers and sisters in the same company and had a good relationship. Previously, the 2 of them starred in a period drama together. The ratings were very good and there was even a rumor that the 2 of them fell in love with each other. The rumor had occupied the headlines for several months. Yang Mi said, "It's all because of this little b*** teeth blocking the way. She's just a newcomer, yet she's so ambitious and wants to steal the limelight." Li Jiuxian smiled. "Sister Mi is so beautiful. Tonight, you'll definitely be the center of attention." When Yang Chang heard his praise, she naturally enjoyed it. Her face couldn't help but blush as she pouted. "Jiuxian, you're also very handsome today. Tomorrow's headline will definitely be yours." "Thank you for your guidance, Sister Mi." However, at this juncture, the media was already waiting at the reception. "Big Sis Mi, don't be so calculative with a newcomer. Otherwise, if word gets out, the media will exaggerate and say that you're abusing your power to bully others. That won't be worth it," Li Jiuxian advised. "Yes, you're right." Obviously, Yang Chang had taken his words to heart. She stepped forward and naturally held his arm. Li Jiuxian smiled elegantly and entered the venue with her. Yun Na stared blankly at Li Jiuxian's departing figure, and her heartbeat couldn't help but quicken and thump. Tang Yu didn't continue pestering Yun Na when he saw this. He grunted coldly and warned her before entering the venue as well. Not long after, Ling Xiang arrived. Chapter 141. Reading on her phone. Reading on her phone by Ran nodded and turned on her phone. She could already surf the internet normally. Gu Qingzi booked a hotel pickup service. When they arrived at the hotel, it was already 4 in the morning. Bai Ran had a feeling that they would probably spend the next day in the hotel. She felt that it would be a waste. Gu Qingzi seemed to have seen through her thoughts and comforted her. "It's okay. If you're really tired tomorrow, you can rest in the hotel. Anyway, tomorrow's itinerary hasn't been decided yet." Bai Ran was a little worried. Isn't it too extravagant? For some reason, he felt a little reluctant to waste his time in a hotel when he was out on a trip. Gu Qingzi laughed. "We're getting married on a trip. It's different from other trips. We don't have to be so tired. Rest well and you can recharge your energy." I think you won't even be able to get out of bed tomorrow." When Bai Ran heard this, she smiled and said, "Actually, I slept for a while on the plane. Even if I'm tired, I should be able to wake up by noon tomorrow." "You have so much energy?" Gu Qingzi's eyes were playful as he said meaningfully, "Then I'll have to learn from you." "Learn from you?" Bai Ran didn't understand for a moment. However, when they arrived at the hotel, the 2 of them took a shower and lay on the bed. Bai Ran finally understood what Gu Qingzi meant when he said, "Learn from you," on the way to the hotel. She originally thought that after such a long flight, he would be exhausted and would probably fall asleep after taking a shower at the hotel. She didn't expect that when they got on the bed, Gu Qingzi would flip over and press her under him and start to demand. After being married for so long, he rarely touched her. Even if he did touch her, he wouldn't be too rough. Especially the first and second time, he was considerate of her first time and her body couldn't withstand the torment. Therefore, he was always careful and extremely gentle. Therefore, to Bai Ran, it wasn't as embarrassing as the rumors said. She felt like she was run over by a truck, she felt sore all over, she didn't feel anything at all. By the fourth and fifth time, she had already gotten used to it. It was only during this honeymoon that a certain man, who had been conserving his energy, finally showed his true strength in bed. It wasn't until the next day that Gu Qingzi saw that she was exhausted. Even though he couldn't bear to part with her, he knew that he had to give up. At that time, she felt that her body was as soft as cotton, and she didn't even have the strength to get off the bed. No wonder. It was only then that Bai Ran realized that Gu Qingzi was right when he said that she might not be able to get out of bed tomorrow. It turned out that this man already had some kind of plan from the moment he boarded the plane. Gu Qingzi carried her. After cleaning her up, he carried her to bed to rest. When he held her in his arms, he couldn't help but feel a little restless. Only then did she beg for mercy. She kissed and pecked him, saying all sorts of nice things. Only then did he hug her in satisfaction and fall asleep. That night she was really tired. The energy she had replenished on the plane had been completely squeezed out. Therefore, she slept especially soundly. She didn't even dream of anything and slept until noon the next day. At noon, she still couldn't bear to wake up. Gu Qingzi was the first to wake up. He waited for her to wake up, but she didn't wake up, so he kissed her awake. Watch first episode Zui new chapter section, please go to client, mobile address. Watch first episode Zui new chapter section, please go to client, mobile address. Chapter 142. Reading on the phone. Reading on the phone at noon, she still couldn't bear to wake up. Gu Qingzi was the first to wake up, but she didn't wake up no matter how long he waited, so he kissed her awake. Bai Ran had been tormented by him until very late at night, and a woman's stamina was not as good as a man's. Although she had rested enough and didn't feel sleepy, after an entire night of passion, she opened her eyes but didn't have the strength to get out of bed. Gu Qingzi kissed her awake, so he naturally wouldn't waste the rare, honeymoon opportunity. Although they were getting married on a trip, Bai Ran and Gu Qingzi had agreed to include a honeymoon in the trip. Especially, it was when he saw Bai Ran wake up. Her sleepy eyes were surrounded by smoke. Although she had just woken up and was in a daze, her skin was surprisingly good and had the texture of egg white. The more Gu Qingzi looked at her, the more he held her face and kissed her more and more passionately. The more he kissed her, the more he wanted to have her. Under Bai Ran's half-hearted resistance, he had her twice. It was as if he wanted to vent all the passion and vitality he had accumulated over the past 20 years on this woman in this limited and short period of time. Gu Qingzi had been forbidden for too long. It wasn't that he hadn't thought about the relationship between a man and a woman. After all, he was an adult man and naturally had needs. However, he was different from ordinary men. Forget about what happened. Even ordinary kissing and hugging could not be done without a foundation of feelings. It was almost instinctive for him to think about love. It wasn't that he hadn't thought about the relationship between a man and a woman based on feelings. It wasn't purely because he couldn't let go of Bai Ran. At that time, he didn't have any expectations of meeting Bai Ran again. As for the Gu family, they basically turned a blind eye to his relationship problems. Gu Jinglian felt that dating and marriage were two different things. Hence, he was open to dating. However, Gu Qingzi couldn't be bothered to deal with it. He felt that it was too tiring to start from knowing each other and then understand each other. In a way, he was too lazy. Therefore, gradually as time passed, he became numb to such things. As long as it was something that could be solved by himself, he would do it half-heartedly. In any case, to him, these were all things that could be solved by himself. However, after meeting Bai Hao, the instinct that had been suppressed in his body for a long time was finally released. It was as if he couldn't get enough of it no matter how much he ate. Bai Ran wanted to cooperate with him, but Gu Qingzi was young and hot-blooded. After 2 rounds, he was exhausted. Therefore, not long after, she collapsed in his arms and learned how to act coquettishly. She hummed and pushed him away. Obviously, she couldn't handle it anymore. Unbeknownst to her, Xianxia almost couldn't control himself when he heard her whining. Jean, in the future, you're not allowed to act coquettishly with anyone other than me. Xianxia suddenly made a strange request. Bai Hao was a little confused. He didn't understand. What's wrong? Promise me, okay? When Xianxia thought of her using such a tone to act coquettishly with others, regardless of whether it was a man or a woman, he was very offended. Alright. Bai Hao made a generous gesture. I promise you. What an overbearing man. Viewing starters a new chapter 8 sections please go to hall guest mobile address. Starters a new chapter sections please go to hall guest mobile address. Chapter 143. Reading on mobile phone. Reading on mobile phone in the afternoon, Bai Ran finally recovered and was able to get out of bed. The two of them packed up and went to the hotel's Western restaurant. She was a little hungry, but it was not a meal. However, this hotel was a 5-star Holiday Inn in Hong Kong. The hotel's luxurious Western restaurant had a huge floor-to-ceiling window. Sitting by the window, not only could one have a panoramic view of the pirates and the forest, but one could also enjoy an especially authentic English afternoon tea. Bai Ran politely declined English cuisine, but the English afternoon tea was quite delicious. Bai Ran looked at the dessert tower in front of her and the fragrant black tea and felt her whole body relax a little. The dessert tower's decoration was so beautiful that Bai Ran could not help but take a few pictures and share them on her WeChat moments. However, not long after, several WeChat notifications suddenly rang. Bai Ran picked up her phone and saw that it was the company's business department director. She had forgotten that she had forgotten to block her colleagues from the company when she was sharing the pictures. She said that she was not feeling well and wanted to take leave. In the end, she went to have fun. Why can't I get through to her? Is she deliberately not picking up? Bai Ran, I'm warning you, call me back immediately. Otherwise, you'll be punished for absenteeism. In just a few words, the beautiful afternoon mood was completely ruined. Bai Ran's face fell. Xianxia saw this and could not help but ask, what's the matter? I just took a few pictures and shared them on WeChat moments. The company director saw it. Oh. Xianxia was a little surprised. Didn't you resign? But I haven't resigned yet. When Xianxia heard this, he suddenly asked tentatively, do you still want to do this job? Bai Ran looked up and glanced at him. She pursed her lips and said the most heartfelt words, actually, I don't want to do this job anymore. In the beginning, I joined this company because I felt that I would be able to gain good experience in this company. I study design, and in the future, I hope to have my own design studio. However, ever since I joined this company, they only asked for the same designs. Also, because they work with the local wedding dress market, I draw wedding dresses every day until I'm about to throw up. This is not my dream. Xianxia nodded. Then why didn't you resign back then? Because if I change jobs and have no source of income, Auntie will say that I'm a freeloader. Bai Zhe was a strong-willed person. She had a strong sense of self-esteem and could not bear such humiliation. Old Gnawing Clan? She had started working as soon as she graduated. Although her salary wasn't high, it was reasonable. She had followed her aunt's wishes and joined the company. She was tired of the same designs every day. She was not an arrogant person, but with her goal, she absolutely did not want to settle for such a small company. If you're not happy at work, then change your job. It's also very troublesome to find a new job. There's no rush. A good job can't be rushed. Besides, I'm taking care of you. What are you afraid of? Xianxia's especially calm words greatly moved Bai Ran. He said so matter-of-factly that he would take care of her. For a moment, she felt so happy that she was about to float up and watch. Starters a new chapter 8 sections welcome to Hall of Visitors, mobile address. Watch starters a new chapter 8 sections welcome to Hall of Visitors, mobile address. Chapter 144. For the first time in her life, Bai Ran had the feeling that she had someone backing her up. Unconsciously, the corners of her lips curled up as she secretly laughed. Xianxia saw that she was laughing and could not help but reach out to pinch her cheeks gently. What are you laughing at? I feel like you're my big backer. Now that you've said that, I feel more confident. Actually, Bai Ran was not a career-oriented woman. However, she was a person with a strong backbone. Especially after living under someone else's roof for so many years, she believed that no matter what, she had the ability to back herself up. However, after graduation, under her aunt's urging, she found a company and hurriedly started work. She did not consider her career direction and prospects. After joining the company, she designed a bunch of wedding dresses. She was almost numb to it. Originally, designing wedding dresses should have been a blissful thing. However, she often had to work overtime due to large orders. At her peak, she had to submit more than 10 design drafts a week. Although she did not earn much, as long as it was a design, she had to put in a lot of effort. Therefore, almost every design draft was a masterpiece. This was also the reason why the company did not let her go. If it were not for Bai Ran's soft temper, with her talent, after working for a year in this small design company, she would have been the head of the design department. She was too easy to talk to, so she was suppressed. Why else would there be a saying, kind people get bullied? Seeing her satisfied look, Gu Qing's heart ached and he pitied her. I'm your backer. After a pause, he added, I'm your backer for life. Yeah. Bai Ran leaned her head gently on his shoulder. At this moment, on WeChat, the owner of the design department angrily complained again. Bai Ran, do you still want this job? Just because I gave you some color, you started a dye shop. Do you think work is so perfunctory? You don't even care about the company's rules and regulations. Do you believe that I'll fire you? If this goes on, this shabby temple won't be able to accommodate a great Buddha like you. Bai Ran looked at the director's angry words and smiled. He replied lightly, since you've said so, isn't it up to you to decide whether to expel me or not? In an office far away in Beijing. When the director saw Bai Ran's reply, he almost exploded in anger. She had only said those words in a fit of anger. She really couldn't bear to fire him. One had to know that Bai Ran was the head of the design department. It was because of Bai Ran's talent that the company could receive more and more orders. She had threatened to expel Bai Hao just to intimidate him. She had thought that Bai Hao would be scared and beg for mercy after she had shown him her power. After all, in her eyes, Bai Kun had always been a soft persimmon that could be crushed at will. Now, this sentence made her completely dumbfounded. Does this idiot think his wings have hardened? The director had no way out of this embarrassing situation. He didn't know what to do. If he really fired them, what would happen to all the orders piled up there? He was known to want to die for nothing. This is so infuriating. So infuriating. The director slammed the table, his face red. Chapter 145. In the office, an assistant happened to be boiling water. Seeing the angry look on the director's face, she heard the director's nagging and grumbling on Bai Yu's WeChat. She probably understood what had happened, so she said casually, "This Bai Yu is really lucky." The director's attention was attracted by her and he was a little confused. "What do you mean?" "Oh, director, you don't know? I heard that Bai Yu married a good husband. I heard that he's worth tens of millions. What's so strange about having a net worth of tens of millions?" The director said disapprovingly, "In this capital, how many people with a net worth of tens of millions can be smashed with a brick?" "Sigh, director, you don't know this. Do you know about the Spring River Imperial Seal?" "I know. It's a very famous real estate. Those who can buy it are the top people in society." The director reacted. "Why did you suddenly mention the Spring River Imperial Seal? I saw that her husband just bought a house there some time ago. Moreover, he has a good relationship with the president of Xianxia Financial Group." The director sucked in a breath of cold air. Most of the designers in this design company were Beijing drifters. Therefore, they worked hard in the hope of leaving a place in the capital. Owning a house in the capital and being able to buy a house were two different concepts. Many people's houses in the capital were obtained through demolition. The old city district was renovated and settled down in a residential area. Therefore, although most of the houses in the residential area were expensive, they could not be sold because they needed them. Secondly, the residential area was just an ordinary real estate. However, the Spring River Imperial Seal was different. This real estate was open to the top elites in society. Just the price alone was enough to make people flinch. Those who could buy the Spring River Imperial Seal were either rich or noble. When he heard that Bai Yu's husband lived in the Spring River Imperial Seal, the director did not believe it. Listen to her bragging. The houses there cost tens of millions and you still have to draw numbers. It doesn't matter, you still have to line up obediently. This isn't Bai Yu bragging. Everyone in our company knows and saw it with their own eyes. Bai Yu said that her husband has special channels and can buy a house there at a 50% discount. Many colleagues in the company didn't believe it, so they all went with her. In the end, they were slapped in the face in public. Moreover, many people said that Bai Yu's husband and the president of Xinyu Financial Group, Yun Tianyu. The director called out the name immediately. Yun Tianyu was an influential figure in the capital. It resounded like thunder in the ears. It was him. The two of them seemed to have a good relationship. Many people guessed that Bai Ran's husband is also a member of the rich second-generation circle. When the director heard this, he could not help but scoff. It's not that I want to say this, but this is just a dream. There has to be a limit, right? Rich second generation? Which of the rich second-generation heirs in the capital didn't care about matching up? What kind of family background does Bai Hao have? She has nothing. She only has a pretty face. Why would someone like her? She felt a little unbalanced. After all, even she hadn't found a partner yet. With a monthly income of 20 to 30,000, she was considered to be at the bottom of the food chain in Beijing. The assistant smiled but didn't say anything. Maybe she's married into a rich family, so she doesn't care about this job at all. From what I see, she definitely has nothing to do with it. How blissful it is to be a young mistress who doesn't have to worry about food and clothing. There wasn't much malice in his words, but they were filled with envy. When the director heard this, he was skeptical. You're not telling the truth, are you? Chapter 146. Reading on a mobile phone. Reading on a mobile phone. Everyone in the company knows that I'm not the only one who can decide whether this is true or not. After the assistant finished speaking, she smiled and left. The director leaned back in his chair and suddenly felt a little puzzled. This society was not as romantic as television dramas. What rich young master and Cinderella? This kind of plot could not be played out in reality. There was a reason why families of equal social status should be matched. The disparity between the rich and the poor was not small at all. Not to mention ordinary people like Bai Ran, even the female celebrities in the entertainment industry could not wait to squeeze their heads into the gaps of the rich and powerful. However, the real rich and powerful looked down on them. Although the aristocratic system had been abolished in the country, just by looking at the banquets, the charity events, and the famous private clubs, it was clear that the abolition of the aristocratic system was just a superficial thing. In fact, many rich people liked to have the title of aristocrats. Everyone wanted to be a dragon or phoenix among men. The vanity and arrogance of humans had always been deeply ingrained. This was a little puzzling. Why could a commoner like Bai Ran marry into a rich and powerful family? That was the dream of many women. Moreover, Bai Ran was usually very dull and did not know how to please people. In the office, no one was willing to play with her. It was not that she was difficult to get along with. First, it was because she was strict with her discipline. She had to go home after work and rarely attended colleagues' gatherings. Second, she was poor. Because she was poor, sometimes when her colleagues were kind to her, occasionally treating her to a meal or small gifts, she did not dare to accept them. Her ability was limited and she did not know how to repay them. It was also because of this that Bai Ran was a little high and mighty in the eyes of others. Such a girl, what kind of tricks did she use? However, where did this phrase come from? Circle. Since she had really married a rich man, the circle of rich people must not be small, right? If they could get closer to her, then wouldn't they have the opportunity to come into contact with the circle of rich people? Perhaps she would be lucky enough to find a Mr. Right that she would be in love with. The director of the design department was already 27 years old. He had been in this company for more than 4 years. He was cautious and conscientious, and his dream was to be able to live and work in Beijing. Her hometown was not rich and was a well-known poor village. After coming to the city, she was deeply attracted by the prosperity and neon lights here. She thought that she must stay in such a city. However, she had been busy with work for the past few years. She didn't like the male colleagues in the company because they were from ordinary families. She didn't know many big shots and occasionally had the opportunity to go on blind dates. However, based on her qualifications, it seemed that she couldn't find a satisfactory one. However, since Byran was able to marry a rich man, she boasted that her background was better than Byran's. Therefore, she was more confident. Byran had just finished her afternoon tea when the director sent her another WeChat message. However, the tone in this message seemed to be much better. Sigh. Bai-kun. Previously it was my fault. You were not in good health. As your superior, I should have been more understanding. At the same time, you should be more understanding. I'm also very tired with so many employees. You haven't come to work for a few days, and the partners have been rushing you. I kept asking you when you would come to work, but you didn't reply. Today, I saw you showing off the food on your WeChat moments. I thought you were having fun and didn't look like you were sick. I got angry. Start Sue new chapter section. Please go to hall guest, mobile address. Start Sue new chapter section. Please go to hall guest, mobile address.